journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Today, Monday, the 31st of August, 2020. This is it. It's the end of the month. And no sooner had we said August than we said September.
And no sooner will we be thinking of September when we'll be thinking of December.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Just like that. And 2020 will be gone.
Yep.
Many are waiting for this one to happen.
And 2021 will not be beckoning. It will be with us.
Right here.
As they say in Kiswahili, punde will not even have had time to become punde.
Nduh Okoh.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Fantastic.
Asante sana.
Did you have a good weekend?
Yes.
Good.
Did you?
I did.
What did you have?
For the weekend? I had some rest.
Yeah.
It's a good diet, that.
Isn't it?
A lovely
I
diet.
got to swim, so I was happy.
Kabisa.
So you're a swimmer.
I am.
That is now not rest, that's therapy.
It was necessary.
It's therapy.
So that's what swimming does.
What? What?
It calms you down.
It does. Actually, for me, once you get into the rhythm.
You don't sound like you're in the rhythm.
I
Sound
was,
like
not
the-
anymore. If
Like
I was,
the rhythm was on Saturday or something.
yeah, if I could be there now. But you know, it's good stuff. Try it sometime.
City is Monday. You know, that day that you love.
You know, Monday is a good
Waking
day.
up to a Monday.
You wake up to a Monday, you think of all the problems that you've left the week, before, and which in reality you actually haven't left. But this mental game that we play with ourselves about moving forward, it's a wonderful thing. Mondays are good days, man. Mondays are good days. You know why?
It's a new beginning.
It is a new beginning. And more than anything else, there are very few things that I can find need for gratitude beyond that. Just, it's a new day and I'm there. It's a good thing.
Good day to be alive every day, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. The fact that I can witness and I'm part of this new day, man, things can't get better than that.
Never take some of these things for granted.
Yes. Because
Never.
within that, then everything else that I may think is important can now be fitted in.
Now come in.
Yes, exactly. But it has to start with that.
Welcome to the show. Today we'll be discussing a number of things. Of course, we can see what's happening from what we saw on Friday in the Senate during the proceedings for the investigation into COVID-19 funds. A lot happened. CS Mutahika, Gwe PS, Mochache, and who else? Well, we'll be talking about that. Then also we will be seeking the opinion of the Kenya Medical Association on this particular matter because they have an issue that they want to raise. They have got a bone to pick with the government and the handling of COVID-19, and especially with the kind of revelations that have come out now on how money is alleged to have been misappropriated. We'll also, of course, being a Monday, we'll go into the politics of the day. Kandara MP Alice Wahome will be joining us this morning, and she'll be telling us what she thinks. She's a senior lawyer, remember. We are still commemorating 10 years of the Constitution of Kenya, and we'll be seeking her opinion in terms of the implementation of this Constitution, in terms of what the conversation is now heading towards amending some aspects of this Constitution. Is it the right time? Is it a good thing to do? And also looking at the whole politics of the Constitution vis-a-vis the leadership of the country, vis-a-vis Jubilee Party and all those things. So keep it right here for that. But let's begin where we always begin so we can then have a smooth sailing show. COVID-19 in numbers.
So we're looking at 263 new cases reported from 4,424 samples tested within the last 24 hours. This is what happened yesterday, taking Kenya's total COVID-19 caseload to 34,057. So Nairobi still accounts for the highest numbers, 81, followed by Kiambu, Embu, Mokweni, Nakuru, and Njeri counties. So COVID-19, as we had seen a few weeks ago, present in all counties in the country. Case fatality still stands at 1.6%, the average rate recorded this month. And it had a decline from 1.9% reported in July and 2.5% recorded in June. Last week was to be the week where we would see more reagents into the country, then that would allow for more testing to be done. That has still not happened, so it'd be interesting to see how this all.
They didn't come?
No, not yet. They're
Why?
still
What
on the way.
happened?
No, it hasn't been reported that they've arrived. They could have arrived, and maybe they're still tabulating and everything.
They're being processed. Stock taking.
Sure.
Ensure that what left is what arrived.
Yes. So let's wait and see. Maybe this week they will come, right? Okay. 25,384,436 cases around the world. And now seeing that news or reports coming out of the World Health Organization are that the spread of the virus could be now more virulent in children. And this vis-a-vis cases for children to go back to school, especially in the United States and Europe, where the new semester is beginning across board, right? And whereby some schools are saying only children above the age of 13 should be wearing masks. Children below the age of 13, that is not necessary. New reporting coming out saying that the spread of the virus is like the common cold. So they need to be very careful then in terms of transmission between children, because it could be more easily spread in this age range. So that discussion continues. 850,000 deaths around the world, 17,700,000 having recovered. The United States, well over 6 million cases, with 6,173,236 cases. In India continue to rise. We've seen an additional 300,000 cases since Friday in India, and an additional 2,500 deaths. Russia inching closely to 1 million cases. South Africa reducing on their cases, having now been overtaken by Peru. South Africa with 625,056 cases and 14,028 deaths. Deaths still continue to rise in Mexico, 4,129 cases with 339 deaths recorded in the last 24 hours. Okay, so this is what we continue to see. And China still recording a few cases here and there, and still at the same time when they're starting to, getting more and more in the business of opening up and allowing more and more things to take place, like sporting activities and restaurants opening and things like this. Okay. Yeah, so Australia now recording higher numbers per day, 76 cases in the last 24 hours, and the eyebrows are raised over this as well. South Korea, again, recording more cases, and this is something that was in the news last week, as we saw that one of the churches where all of this began now having issues with not being able to open, but now seeing whereby South Korea had dropped to below 10 cases per day. They're recording upwards of 200 cases every day now, and unfortunately now with one more death. This is what we see in some cases where they thought we'd be able to shut it down. It's mushrooming once again.
Yet again, in the world of research, what is of interest is that all manner of discussions are now taking place. The discussion around plasma being used for treatment, it's heated up. And the key issue that is being discussed is that the findings of that particular study that the FDA approved to be used for emergency purposes did not have what you call randomization. It didn't have that option that allows people to determine whether this thing is perchance, in all honesty, that's what random is all about, or whether it is determined. The numbers were good, but it isn't enough for it to be considered right across the board. It is considered as something that shows signs of positive improvement on the health of people who've used it, but there's still too many questions being asked. Now, there's been the discussion about surfaces being transmission agents for. Studies done in Japan have shown that there is nothing that can conclusively prove that. Doesn't mean it doesn't, but there's nothing that can conclusively prove that.
But they can show and say, all right,
Well, the surfaces, yes.
the virus remained alive
Yes.
on this particular surface for this period of time, whereas it was suggested before. There is no scientific proof or evidence
There isn't.
to point to
However, the aerosol aspect of transmission, that there's ample proof for that. But now, what is also of significance is this. When we have a situation such as the one we have, there will be discussions upon discussions, even as people keep bringing up what they think could be possible solutions. But the debate is now tending towards thinking that the vaccine may not necessarily be the answer that we were looking for. Not necessarily. And why? It's because of the discussion of reinfection. Because if you get a vaccine, do we know that the vaccine will prevent you from being reinfected? So it opens up the discussion yet to a totally different level. But what has been agreed on and has not changed is the ABC of prevention. That has not been disagreed on. The disagreement came in with the discussion of face masks. And there are many countries, specifically in the West, where they said face masks, not necessary. Now, they have engaged reverse gear, full throttle. Face masks are mandatory, and even fines are being levied on people who don't wear them. Yes. The washing of hands, nobody questions. Sanitizing, nobody questions.
Distance,
nobody questions. So, if one is talking about, Eric has actually just hit the proverbial nail on the head. Yes, yet. Russia had come up with a solution, they said, that has been questioned and then some. But this is what you expect with research findings. There'll be people who will have alternative views. Now, of interest, these are experts. So you will find an expert has this view which they support, another one has, and they're all experts. So we'll wait for this to die down, because at some point they'll find an even keel. They'll come to a point where they can all agree. Now that's where now what you call lasting solutions. But there's something about this virus. It's like this virus listens to us.
Why? What has it done now?
It's like it's telling us, oh, you think you figured me out? Okay.
Wait.
Keep thinking.
I'll show you.
Keep thinking.
as I keep moving.
As I keep moving.
Something interesting is also happening in Europe. In Germany, in Berlin, and in London. Hundreds of thousands are protesting in the streets. And, well, they are complaining against the government's now reintroduction of these measures and saying, come on, we need to be left alone to learn to deal with this thing and to live our lives with this thing. Okay, and saying that the governments are exaggerating this. Of course, it's not getting a lot of media coverage because of whatever reason. And when it gets coverage, I'm looking at the kind of headlines that we're seeing. The Guardian says, coronavirus skeptics, conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxers protest in London. Anti-lockdown protesters are gathering in London, dismissing coronavirus pandemic as a hoax. You see, this is how they are being branded. Thousands of COVID deniers protest in Berlin and London. This is on CNN. According to the Chinese media, CGTN says, mass protests in Berlin and London against COVID-19 restrictions. See the difference in language? Chinese media says these people are complaining against the restrictions.
Which is actually what they are doing.
The Western media is saying these are anti-vaxxers, they are calling it a hoax.
Naysayers.
Skeptics. And they're not even
malcontents.
Yes. They are not getting much coverage. If it was the other way around, it'd be having, direct 24-hour rolling news coverage on all the media. But now, just a mention.
You see, the question you then have to ask yourself, who is controlling that narrative?
Yeah.
Because there's a narrative that some people seem determined must be pushed. It's that same attitude that led to the spike and those really horrendous numbers that we saw in certain parts of the Western world. The reality is here with you, and yet you're determined that you must push a certain narrative. And if you look at it, and you look at what's happening in the world of commerce, then you can see a correlation. There seems to be a ganging up against China. There's this little app called Tick and Talk. It's actually called TikTok.
Yes.
It's actually raised quite a furor. It's a discussion that's going on. No less a person than the president of the U.S. has waded in and has had a lot to say and has put on restrictions. Now, all I'm saying is this. It's like COVID unearthed the might of China, the economic might of China. It was there. It's not that it wasn't there. But suddenly there was this realization of, excuse me, because when production capacities went down because of restrictions, suddenly you realize your dependency on this particular part of the world.
Yep.
And you think, goodness gracious me, how did we not see this coming? So now this is like clawing back and saying, no, we need to have a little more control about some of these things in our own backyard, as opposed to letting someone else determine these things. And I think that it's these perspectives that are now playing out in the field of health. Because the Chinese themselves have come out with what they think would be adequate preventative measures. And their success story cannot be downplayed. It is a success story. Now, the West are grappling with the reality of COVID. And so far, even when they seem to be winning, they seem to be losing at the same time. And
One
yet,
step back,
yes,
2 steps back.
Exactly. So this is not a situation that I think the West is accustomed to being in. So a little narrative to help get back on that even keel that they're accustomed to, I think, is what we are seeing playing out here.
Right here.
It's always see playing out. And also there's some sort of ganging up by the media to control the narrative as well.
Yes.
Anybody who's protesting, they are protesting because they are anti-vaxxers. I mean, they're everything. They're
Anti-progress.
anti-Christ.
Oh, yes. There'll be those. Anti-life.
Anti-life, everything. 17 minutes after 6. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather, and then we start to look at the big headlines in the newspapers today, including today's big proverb. Good morning. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up at www.spicefm.co.ke, as well as Spice FM KE on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
A bit of a chilly
The
morning in
weather
some parts
with-
of Nairobi at 11 degrees. Clear skies, however. Partly cloudy conditions throughout this Monday with highs of 26 and lows of 11. It's 13 degrees and partly cloudy in Nakuru. We'll see some thunderstorms later with highs of 23 and lows of 12. Njeri clear and sunny conditions at 11 this morning, highs of 24 and lows of 11. And in Eldoret, clear skies at 12 degrees, thunderstorms forecasted for the afternoon with highs of 20 and lows of 11. Let's take a look into Kisumu, where it's clear at 16 degrees. It'll go to a high of 27 with a wet afternoon in store, as it will in Kakamega. Thunderstorms are forecasted for later, going to highs of 24 and lows of 14. Okay, and in Mombasa, it's 23 degrees, clear skies, highs of 28 and lows of 23, and a chance of rain not too far from now. 24 degrees and partly cloudy in Malindi at the moment, highs of 28 and lows of 23. Kampala's partly cloudy at 18, and also likely to have thunderstorms with highs of 25 and lows of 17. It's partly cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 21 degrees, got a high of 31 and come to a low of 20. Johannesburg, back to some chilly weather this morning at 4 degrees. It'll go to a high of 18 and lows of 3. And Lagos is clear this morning at 25. Chance of a shower this morning, highs of 29 and lows of 23. It's partly cloudy in Paris at 14 degrees this morning, go to high of 21 and lows of 10. Thunderstorm warning for yellow today in the French capital. It's 11 degrees in London, partly cloudy conditions. It'll go to highs of 19 and lows of 10. And finally, for now in New York, still Sunday night at 27, it's clear skies, and they will wake up to partly cloudy conditions with highs of 27 and lows of 17.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
That's one
94.4
This is
Spice
Nation
FM.
Today's biggest conversation and today's biggest proverb is
Well, I was caught between two proverbs, which more or less seem to point in the same direction. And even as you asked about it, I decided on which one to settle on. Today is a Monday morning, so let's start with a little truth. A truthful man will soon find himself expelled from 9 villages. This is a Kenyan proverb.
A truthful man will find himself expelled from 9 villages.
You go to one village,
Speak too much truth,
you
out.
stick out. You go to another one, out. So unlike the cat, which proverbially is supposed to have 9 lives, you will certainly not have 9 dwelling places. You will have 9 places that you've been expelled from.
Why? Because people hate the truth.
I
Or
have
truth is uncomfortable. Why?
Well, the question, as you say it, ask yourself, why does truth make people uncomfortable? Or let me ask it differently. What is it that you would be uncomfortable with? Something you're not familiar with. Or something you don't want to be familiar with. But when it comes to truth, if something opposes or contradicts a narrative that you are accustomed to, your immediate knee-jerk reaction will not be one of positivity.
You're going to reject it.
You're going to reject it, and you're actually even probably going to fight it. Is this that same concept of change? We were talking earlier on about COVID, issues related to COVID, reporting COVID, change. Change that you are no longer where you thought you were.
Yeah.
Change that this truth that you think was unalienable is actually not what you think it is. Change. So, truth, that's why truth is uncomfortable.
The truth pushes you to change.
And society loves conformity. Society loves people who go by what everybody else is. That's why you've heard people making statements, even on this very show. We all know. People believe.
Yeah.
Everyone knows. And you're thinking, this consensus, when was it arrived at? Yes? This commonality of perspective, when was it arrived at? But it is a reflection of how we as human beings like to be in a group of people, safety in numbers, so to speak. Without, of course, considering the opposite.
Okay. Okay. Again, the proverb?
A truthful man will soon find himself expelled from 9 villages.
All right. So let's look at the headlines, shall we? There's one man who's being expelled everywhere. Who's that?
Why?
What went wrong? This is the headline in the Standard today. The trouble with Afya House, it's coming round full circle. CS Kagwe took over the health ministry in early March and was described as Kenya's unlikely coronavirus hero. 5 months on, he is grappling with reports of graft in a key agency under his docket, with the president directing immediate investigations. How it went down: he took over the health ministry with gusto, updating the country at every turn, imploring Kenyans and winning their goodwill. Then the suspended KEMSA chief executive officer spilled the beans last week, blaming the CS and the PS for exerting pressure. The standard answer, even as calls for resignation began to filter through yesterday, is that corruption is being politicized. This is what the CS said: I personally brought the price of these items down, and this is why they are fighting me. This is corruption fighting back and a political witch hunt at play. I remain focused.
Okay.
He is not budging.
Why would the CEO of KEMSA point at the principal secretary in the Ministry of Health and the CS?
And the cabinet secretary.
What on earth would drive him to make such a decision? And in no less a place than the August House. Why would he? What reason would he possibly have?
Under oath.
Yes, what reason? Because this one isn't going to go away. It's on record. It's there for posterity. Why would he do this? But if you look carefully, we had a CS who did something even more interesting. He actually threw this the issue that was before him. That is, there was a Dr. Mailu who was our CS at some point. He's now I think our ambassador in Geneva. He said that actually even him was a bit surprised because, well, yes, it was. I'm not paraphrasing. He was a bit surprised because the person who had preceded him had begun this particular matter and it was not concluded. When he asked for information, none was forthcoming. He is the CS. So he assumed, here I'm paraphrasing, that the matter must have come from a higher office. The common thread is that you will not see a public officer taking responsibility for anything. It's always someone else. Always. Always.
I'm liking what I'm seeing here, though. And I really liked when I saw Dr. John Manjari, the CEO of KEMSA, going out there and deciding, you know what, you're not going to drag my name through the mud alone. I'm going to come and I'm going to say what happened. So in very many instances, and I saw PS Susan Mochache is demanding that he explains and he produces proof and evidence. In very many of those instances, the CEO was saying that I received a phone call or I received a message from the PS or from the CS instructing me this and the other. Very few of those instances is he saying, I got written instructions to do this. So you see, it points back to what we've been talking about, what the CS himself, Mutahi Kagwe, has been talking about, the rot that is in Afya House. And if this is finally going to get us to unearth who is this that controls Afya House, then so be it.
It almost sounds as if that he's happy for this kind of expose, because then what it would do is that it gives him an opportunity to then segue into this rot that you talk about. Because he says, it pleases me that you now have an understanding or a deeper understanding of why I'm so resolute about transforming the sector. So it may now give him, like you're saying, an opportunity to say, okay, well, here we are. Since the spotlight is here, let's open it up and really have you look at what's going on here. So he's not brandishing this. He's not saying that this is how can I be accused. He's actually opening it up to Kenyans and saying, now look at what is really going on here. And it felt like I couldn't fight it on my own, but now that the spotlight is on it, let's look at this thing properly.
But you know what is also of interest? Remember what has actually been said. The CEO said he was put under pressure. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I've seen a clip, so I didn't listen to the entire conversation. I haven't been able to listen to the entire conversation. It would be nice to listen to the entire conversation and to ask, okay, you were spoken to. Was this the only time you were spoken to, or is being spoken to something that is normal?
Yeah.
Normal.
Is it a normal thing?
Yes. And then the content that comprised this pressure you speak of, what was it? Because if we were to look at the details of this, you could argue that, yes, they may even have suggested and said, look, there are people whom we know who supply these things well. And as PS, I have a list of pre-qualified suppliers who normally do these things. Would you care to include these people? We are not told whether that was the conversation or, excuse me, we are giving you a list and sending it right now, and these are the people you must give this.
And the amounts.
And the amounts. We don't know this. Or the conversation was, what do you think these things will cost? Do we have the person who can give us this thing at the most reasonable price and yet maintain the quality? We don't know the details of this conversation. Again, it could be a reporting issue. It's been reported as this was what happened in summary. But if you look at the details may be different.
May point something to
yes,
something
it
different.
may point something completely different. Yes. Because I don't see a situation where KEMSA has this very important and pivotal job and they do not talk with the big shots in Afya House. It can't happen.
Of course, they need to consult, but also at the same time, KEMSA, as a procuring agency,
yes.
has the list of its pre-qualified suppliers.
It does.
KEMSA knows where it will get all these medical supplies and how quickly it can get them.
I believe it does.
So the conversation, if a conversation should come from a PS, would be, are you guys okay? Are you... this is what we need within this time. Can you supply? Can you not? We can supply. Now, the details of who is going to supply, I leave it to you because you're the experts. That's what you do on a daily basis.
You see,
if the conversation starts turning into, okay, so give me the list of who you... No, these ones. No. Include these other ones. Then we start having a problem.
I think that is why I'm in agreement with you when you say the discussion is good, because now we are beginning to actually talk about who says what to whom.
Yep.
The details will be able to resolve this little quandary that we have, because the details exist.
It's very unfortunate that this is going to be a rushed investigation. The Senate is in a rush because it's feeling the pressure from the Kenyans and it wants to give us an answer. And then now the Auditor General or the EACC will be feeling that they're in a rush because they've been given 21 days by the president. So the proper forensic audit of what exactly happened will not be done. And for that to happen, you need time. You need to actually trace back and see. So this is the conversation that took place. At this point, this conversation happened. At this point, this action was taken. At this point, this is what happened. So you can trace back and piece together the whole story and know these are the people. These are the actual culprits. These are the people who are culpable. And these ones were just taking orders. And their mistake is that they were not strong enough to.
But in these matters, Eric, there is this little and very subtle and yet very, very pervasive perspective, and that is the court of public opinion.
Yep.
The court of public opinion takes it and makes the issue simpler. What have we seen happening in this ministry before? Start there.
Yeah.
Okay? If we want to expand our vision, let us look at other ministries and see what has happened and where the rot has set in, and it's actually at the head. So you're guilty before you even move forward.
Yes.
Before you move.
Yes.
If you take it to KEMSA, same story. What is the history of this institution? What is the length of time we've seen the CEOs lasting in this job? Have we seen this sort of thing before? And the answer will be a resounding yes. So now, once the resounding yes, the guilty or not guilty, it's easy to arrive at.
Yep. In public opinion.
Yes.
And the real people who run these cartels, they love that. Because they know that you're going to look at...
People are sidetracked.
You're going to look at who you see, the public image, and this is the CS, the CEO. You'll never look at us.
And especially remember, we had a similar case where a CS and the principal secretary were sent home. Case still pending. So this one, it is easier to believe, yet another one. Okay?
Yeah.
And yet, the truth is the details haven't come in yet, have they?
No.
We're still at that stage where this is being said and the other is being said and this is being said. But, there could have been a third narrative and a clear narrative. If procedure had been followed, all that would have been done was said, actually, we do follow procedure in this ministry and this is what we do.
Yeah.
And then you then change the debate to, okay, is this document false? Is it true? Is this what will happen? It's a foundation and a basis on which now to have the conversation moving forward. I haven't heard anything of that sort. Maybe you have.
No, I haven't either. 27 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at what's happening on the road this Monday morning. And then we come back and look at other headlines this morning. Good morning. It's the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Traffic.
Okay, well, starting Monday morning in fine form. Unfortunately, this morning, an accident past Sultan Hamoud near Mali. No deaths, thank goodness for that. But that's Mombasa Road and heading into the city this morning. Unfortunately, that has already happened. Let's look at what other parts of the city look like. It's clear coming off Thika Road today, inbound to the CBD. Not too much of an issue right now. Not too much traffic. We're likely to see a lot more inbound traffic as the minutes tick by. All right, coming off Mombasa Road, right around the SGR, moving towards Cabanas. It's going to build up a little bit more as we get towards 7 o'clock. It'll get to bumper situation. Of that, I can assure you. Everywhere else looks good, though. Bagavi Way, the trusses for the footpath or the footbridge were put up between Saturday and Sunday. That should be done. So we shouldn't see too much traffic on that road today, heading towards Gong Road and then from the City Mortuary roundabout headed towards Valley Road or then down towards Ngong Road should be fine getting into the city. Let's look at what it looks like in about half hour or so, and then we'll be able to judge how long you have to sit in this one, guys. All right? Okay. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know if you get stuck somewhere and we can see how we can keep it moving this Monday morning.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
All right,
done
24 minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Looking at other headlines this morning, City.
Well, let's tone down the tempo of the conversation and look at the University of Nairobi. It is being reported in the Star that the University of Nairobi Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kiama, has outlined a 5-point agenda to turn around the institution and solidify its position as an academic giant. This is when he was virtually addressing the university fraternity. All right, there are details, but this is what you would expect when a new leader comes in. You look at what you probably believe requires change, and you forge ahead and begin the process. Now, why I'm not even reading what he actually said in details is this. This is a story that is going to unfold because there'll be responses to it, there'll be reaction to it, and the reaction will be to the details. That is when I'll look into it. Yes.
Ah. Okay. And what do you have, Nduh?
Okay, so cash transfers to go as COVID goodies dry up. This is what is being reported on front page of The Nation today. The clock is ticking on the COVID-19 relief introduced in March to cushion Kenyans from the economic effects of the pandemic. The government has started scaling down on some of those relief. The first to be knocked off is the cash transfer program for poor households, which will end 6 months of social safeguards to the vulnerable. Under the scheme, the government sends out about 1.3 billion shillings every month. The payments will now be terminated in the first week of October, according to a plan revealed by the Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Ministry, Simon Chelugui, in Parliament last week. Since May, 341,958 households have received the weekly 1,000 shilling stipend to cushion them from the dire economic conditions caused by the pandemic. He told legislators that the initial 10 billion allotted for the cash transfer scheme was dispersed by the Interior Ministry via M-Pesa. So come October, it's not going to happen anymore. It's done. It's finished. So
Okay.
I don't know if this is lying on the assumption that the economy is going to pick up more people can go out and get back to their daily bread activities.
But this we were told by both CSs for interior and for housing,
That it was
PSs
going to
rather.
happen.
That,
Yeah.
I mean, it was the resources were up to a certain point, and then maybe another conversation can be had. Maybe you decide, all right, no, we don't have any more money. We need to put 2 billion shillings to a referendum, or we need to put 2 billion shillings into supporting these families for another month. So this is what now the government will have to look at. What's more important? For posterity, for
Keep
the
feeding
future,
people
for the future of
or
the country.
keep people alive? Or,
Keep feeding people, or look at how to change laws so that these people can.
vote you back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 in 10 youths are mentally ill, according to a study, and this is in the counties of Kisumu, Kakamega, Bungoma, and Vihiga, where the cases of poor mental health are on the rise. A new study shows that the number of adolescents seeking mental health services has doubled over the past 2 years. This study was conducted by some organization called Access to Medicine and Tinada Youth Organization, with support from the Open Society Initiative for Eastern Africa. So it says some of the mental illnesses have been linked to abnormal functioning of the nerve cell circuits that connect particular brain regions, ultimately leading to depression. Other causes include drug abuse, teen pregnancy, trauma, distress and depression, gender-based violence, especially in Bungoma, Vihiga, and Kakamega counties. This is something, I mean, when you talk about 6 in 10,
do they give details of the sample size, the number of people who were...
not this particular story. Probably if you look at the report, then you'd be able to tell to see how they conducted the research. The research revealed that mental health concern becomes a mental illness when ongoing signs and symptoms cause frequent stress and affect people's ability to function. It's
Because for this to make sense, they would also need to explain what it is that they actually mean. Because when you talk about mental health,
yep.
mental condition, the thought that comes to a mental reader is madness.
Yep.
And then, yes,
Yeah, it's true.
they
Walking around the streets.
Yes, exactly.
without
Half
clothes.
naked, in shambles, incoherent. So, mental health is not that.
Yep.
Even if you seem to be in a mild state of depression, it will ensure that you're not functioning optimally. Your mental health has been affected. It's important when an opportunity of this sort arises to categorize and say, in this category we see these numbers. In this category we see these numbers, so that you understand. And also, it provides an opportunity to educate people about mental health, what it actually is, not what we think it is, what we've known it to be. Yes.
It says 50 health facilities across the 4 counties were sampled in the study, involving 326 respondents.
Good.
Okay.
And then they are also looking at how much the counties have allocated to address mental illness. Kisumu has allocated 1 million shillings to fight mental illness. Kakamega, Governor Oparanya has allocated 20 million towards mental health care management and mental health policy. Bungoma has pledged to allocate 10 million. Vihiga has not allocated a single cent to mental health.
Repeat that. Kisumu has allocated how much?
1.05 million shillings.
Okay.
A tidy sum.
Tidy sum.
We don't want to compare it to what Oparanya has done with 20 million.
1 million shillings. Okay.
Yeah, the CEC for Health is the county governor. Or did it change? Has he appointed someone else?
Not that I have heard of.
He's
but
still...
No, 1 million
Still,
shillings.
he is.
You know, given the times in which we live right now, if you visit any healthcare facility,
Yeah.
what you're likely to encounter, even as people talk about, narrate to you the problems that they're having, the diseases and the symptoms that they're exhibiting, you'll find that the underlying cause is probably mental illness.
It is.
So that's why I kept asking 1 million and asked you to repeat 1 million.
This conversation, by the way, during these COVID times, the president set up a team
He did.
to look into the mental well-being.
did.
of
Yes, he
people.
did.
Did they come up with a report? Did they report back?
We haven't seen anything
Have
yet.
they said anything?
We haven't seen or heard anything yet about this.
Because I think it needs now to go back to a policy level, the issue of addressing mental health. All those things that you're saying, defining what mental illness is and even categorizing it.
What's
And
prevalent.
What's
yes.
prevalent and how do you detect it? I mean, how do you...
And your capacity for managing it. Allocating money is fine, we understand, but how exactly have you managed it in the past? And how now,
Do you
with this
intend to do it
additional
now?
pressure of COVID, the additional pressure of the outcomes of COVID, do you plan to have it now? To manage it, rather. Yes.
It's something that unless the government from the very top looks at it that way, then it's always going to be mental health is it's a bother to everybody, right? It's a bother to everybody. So as we go into this break at 7:15, let's remind you about this portal by the Kenya Ports Authority, kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO. What do you want to look at today?
Okay, so we're exporting again, and I thought some questions have popped up in terms of really what happens with this. But so today what we're going to be looking at then is, what you actually do need for export. As you're trying to build your business and things like this, what then does Captain Cargo promise you that you'll be able to find in terms of information? So really whatever anybody's saying to you outside there, whether it's your agent, whether it's the government agencies like KRA or KPA, then you know exactly what should follow. And what is on the portal that Captain Cargo then has to offer should relate directly with what you're being told. And we'll look at some of those specifically for export today.
All right. So you can find all this information on this portal, which is Captain Cargo, www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo, and you'll get all the information that you need about operations at the Kenya Ports Authority. Good morning, 7:45.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
13 minutes to 7. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues. The Standard has a story here, the big issue this morning, and they're talking about unsafe abortion, the problem nobody wants to talk about, with 500 million abortions done annually across the country. 500,000, sorry. Efforts to develop laws that govern abortion remain futile. And with painful stories of deaths and near-death experiences, we take a look at why abortion remains a taboo topic in Kenya. This is a conversation that many don't want to talk about. According to the Kenya Health Information System, between January and May, the number of adolescent girls aged between 10 and 19 who got pregnant is 152,820. This is between the ages of 10 and 19. All right? And then, very many of these, many will, first of all, seek to have an abortion. They will not tell their parents. They will not go to a proper health facility. So they will seek the backroom abortions. The thing about unsafe abortions, the conversation that, sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't want to have it. When it comes to religious organizations, you don't want to have abortion at all. And what is it doing? What's it doing to our population, especially the younger population, because those are the ones that are most likely going to be seeking the unsafe abortions.
Remember the bill that the Senator from Nakuru has been fronting. For the longest time, part of the problem that bill had was that it was referred to as an abortion bill.
Yep.
The issue of abortions in this country, my goodness gracious me, it raises temperatures.
Contention.
Oh, it raises temperatures. Yes. It raises temperatures with the church. It raises temperatures with the Mwananchi. It is considered a major moral issue. If the facts around abortion were perhaps discussed more rationally, as opposed to looking at it as trying to do away with the evidence of sin, perhaps the whole issue would, and the discussions around it would take a different direction. Because the moment you bring it up, all manner of negative things come out of the woodworks.
Well, just the word alone, before you even start having a discussion, it's been very difficult to have any kind of rational or logical discussions around abortion because of the morality that's attached to it, because of the emotion that is attached to it. So it's been difficult previously to do that. And people, unfortunately, everybody comes into the conversation with blinders on, with morals up, and all sorts of things happening at the same time. So I think it is actually time for people, everybody needs to come into the conversation with, eyes open and willing to listen to both sides to hear. I think there are even more than two sides in this conversation.
Yeah,
really.
there are many sides. There are many sides, and I think what I would say the how the government is handling it, the idea that the government has when it comes to dealing with abortion also tells you something. The attitude is the word I'm looking for, of what the government has when it comes to dealing with, even have conversations on abortion. The government is playing the political game. It wants to please those that are against abortion. that is religious leaders. It also wants to please those that are pro-abortion. So the government, instead of offering leadership in this particular conversation and saying, let's have a conversation and this is how we can go about it, the government just keeps playing those back and forths.
It's engaged in fence sitting, unfortunately.
Completely. In 2013, the Director of Medical Services withdrew guidelines on claims that they had been misused. And these guidelines were the post-abortion care guidelines, right? That the PSC curriculum and other training packages offered by the Ministry of Health were on how to take care of people post-abortion. They withdrew them. This was followed in February 2014 by suspension of training of health workers on safe abortion care and the use of the drug Medabon for medical abortion. The ministry threatened health providers with dire legal and professional consequences if they participated in any training on abortion. As a result, one of the petitioners, an adolescent known as JMM, died after suffering complications from an unsafe abortion. Right. And then this case was taken over by FIDA. FIDA filed a petition on behalf of JMM claiming that authorities failed to provide her with proper post-abortion care. So this is a whole conversation that keeps having very many sides and people coming up. Of course, unfortunately, it brings in the whole emotional side of things.
For sure.
And people forget to think rationally. Rational conversation thrown out of the window. Another headline.
Okay, so Malindi MP resurfaces and records statement. Aisha Jumwa has been on the run, according to The Nation, since Thursday, with detectives saying that she was not in any of her homes. Immediately after the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, ordered for the arrest of Malindi MP Aisha Jumwa and several others on a 57 million shilling scandal, detectives started arresting the suspects. Jumwa, however, went underground from Thursday until yesterday when she emerged from her Nyali home. I am now off to Port Police as directed by the court. I have heard a lot of stories that I have been arrested. I have not been arrested. I am just heading on my own to the station to record my statement, said Miss Jumwa after she spoke with journalists yesterday. She got to the Port Police Station, recorded her statement, and left, unlike her co-accused who were detained at the same police station after they had appeared in court on Thursday. Those arrested included CDF manager Washo Omar Abdallah, together with officers Sophia Said, Bernard Riba, Margaret Faith Kalume, Robert Katana, and government engineer Kennedy Otieno Nyango. The five were presented in court on Friday and charged with conspiracy to steal 19 million shillings meant for the CDF, among other corruption charges. They deny the charges and were released on bail of 10 million, or rather, released on 10 million shillings bond, with a surety of a similar amount or an alternative of 5 million shillings cash bail. She, however, walked into the station yesterday, made her statement, and went home and slept in her bed yesterday. So whatever it is that she did not do on Thursday seemed to have worked in her favor. And the case continues.
Okay. So she's basically just presented herself there and said, all right, here I am.
Yeah, here I am.
You know what is of interest? This isn't it's a headline, but it's falls under the category of news around the world. South Africa. The ANC party actually has an integrity commission.
I like the way you said actually has.
Yes, it actually has. It exists and it functions. And how I know it functions, that it has summoned the president
Nice.
to appear before this commission. And the matter that they want to discuss with, among other things, is a certain donation of 500,000 rand, which, when first asked about, the president said had been payment for work he has done, and then later said no, it was a donation towards the campaign. Now, what is of interest is that members of the ANC have been removed from their posts as a result of the commission's past recommendations. So, this is a country where you find the check and balance actually is seen to work.
In the party.
Yes.
You don't own the party.
No, you don't. You're a member of the party. Think about it. It is unthinkable for the presidency, any presidency on this continent, for a president to be summoned. It's unthinkable. And yet it should be the case.
Yep.
Because the responsibilities that a president has is so enormous that check and balance has to be real.
Somebody has to keep them in check. The kind of power that they have.
It has to be real.
The kind of power that, somebody in that position has, it's very normal. Then you apply that power to a human being, it's very normal that they could go off board. So
very easily.
Even more normalized that something needs to be in place to put such in check.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
because
not-
we've seen the result of not putting such things
yes.
in check around the world.
Oh, yes, we have.
From world wars to international and internal conflict because of the lack of such a thing.
You know,
The thing that comes to my mind is, you see, when you see something like this, a strong political party then lends itself to having that argument of having a parliamentary system.
yes,
Because a parliamentary system, it's parties that have a say.
it's parties.
And
yes.
parties will have their check and balance. Because you'll ask yourself, so who is going to be checking this leader of this party or parties in parliament? If parties are strong, then fine, it can work. Because this is what we are seeing. In South Africa, we see the party goes and recalls a president, and so a president falls.
Yes, they do.
Because the party is strong. Now, if we bring this into this country and we push into this direction of, parliamentary system with where the party is the person and the person is the party, who holds the other two?
There's a little detail here, Eric. What you're raising is actually fundamental and should be looked into. But the moment that happens, there'll be a shift in power. What you're discussing is what is our reality now,
Yep.
where there's an all-powerful president. The constraint is the constitution. Now, when parties are strong, all you'll have done is you'll open up the space for that constitution to actually be now enforced more. That's all you've done. And even this person who's the president of the party will know that you may be the person who holds sway. And presidents, if they're members of the party, they hold sway. But you will know that the party has a big say and it is in your interest to actually listen to what you're being told. It's the power of deterrence. It'll be a deterrence. It's something that makes you sit and think.
Yeah. At what point will that party ever even come to existence? The party is a person in this country.
You know, not very long ago, we had party elections in ODM. The one incident that we mentioned sometimes, if I may use a Kenyan terminology, it became shambolic. That election didn't take place. That there were people within the party who were willing to take a stand that didn't seem to rhyme with what the bigwigs had agreed. That is what I go on. It is possible.
It's possible.
It is possible. That's all I'm saying. Right now, Jubilee is having a problem. You could say it's the bigwigs playing their game. But what I think the games bring about is that it is possible. It is possible to even challenge the status quo. Now, that possibility is what gives hope to what we're seeing in South Africa. Yes.
All right, so we're coming to the top of the hour, and this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the next hour, we'll also be live on KTN Home. We'll begin the hour with today's proverb. We'll be live on KTN Home as well as on all our platforms: Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, and Malindi, as well as online. This is www.spicefm.co.ke. We'll be speaking with the Kandara MP, Ali Swahome, who will be telling us what she thinks about the Constitution, implementation of the Constitution, the journey towards now the new conversation around a referendum and the conversation surrounding the BBI. And of course, we must ask her, is she still Tanga-Tanga? Is the Tanga-Tanga still alive and kicking? Is Tanga-Tanga still considering itself part of the Jubilee? Or is Jubilee basically left to the Kieleweke wing and Jubilee Asili has now become Tanga-Tanga? Good morning. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, it's building up on
Traffic.
Mombasa Road right around the Gateway Mall. It's going to take you all the way through to Cabanas. And then as you get to the General Motors section of the road, it will not be too bad. But we already see the traffic build up, which we expected at about this time on Monday morning. Okay, so there's been some road carnage, some more on further up Mombasa Road. We know there was an accident earlier this morning around Imali, and this is just past Sultan Hamoud. And it was an accident. Thank goodness nobody perished from this, but we need to be careful, guys, especially when the roads are not so busy. Okay, from Kiambu all the way into the city, not much traffic today. It's building up ever so slightly right around the Pangani underpass as you head then towards the Globe Cinema roundabout, or rather the Globe Cinema overpass. It shouldn't be too bad right now, but we'll take a look at what's going on In the CBD, for example, it's clogging up some. We're going to see some traffic between Uhuru Highway, between the Nyayo Stadium roundabouts all the way towards Westlands on Uhuru Highway, but we should be fine thereafter, guys. Ngong Road looks good as it does on Langata Road. Coming out of Westlands, not too much drama. For now, we'll keep an eye and see what it looks like. Let us know also what you see. Spice FM KE, not to forget, that's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's coming
the
up to
only
3
way
minutes
to
after
start
7
your
o'clock.
day.
Good morning, and how are you doing on this final day of August 2020? It's a beautiful Monday morning. Welcome to The Situation Room. This is the second hour of the show, broadcasting on Spice FM and now on KTN Home for the next 2 hours. On Spice FM, we are in Nairobi on 94.4, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, Njeri 90.9, and Malindi 97.7. Around the world, we are broadcasting on www.spicefm.co.ke as well as Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Right? And now, of course, also on KTN Home. Let's begin the hour with today's proverb. C.T. Muga.
Kenyan proverb: a truthful man soon finds himself, should I say themselves if I'm to be gender sensitive, expelled from 9 villages.
A
One
truthful
village,
man.
yes, you are in one village, you speak some truth, out. Go to another village, speak some more truth, out. Of course, the question that I ask, what sort of truth is this person spewing? And don't they realize that this, by the time you get to 3, surely you should understand that the likelihood of being expelled from the 4th one is very high. But he continues until the 9th one.
So just continue. You continue that just like that. And
You continue speaking that truth and you'll continue being expelled.
so it basically tells you that the society hates the truth.
Society loves conformity.
And truth is...
Often it isn't. It is non-conformity.
Really?
Yes, it is. Let's start with something very simple that we've grappled with for a long time. The education of the girl child. We take it as being normal now that girls go to school.
Yeah.
For a very long time, there was nothing normal about it. And anyone who took their child, a girl child, to school and got them educated was considered an idiot. At the time, the prevailing logic was that that is not something you do.
Yeah.
Time has proven it to be the complete opposite.
True.
By the same token, it was believed that there are certain jobs that only men can do. And that particular thought process traversed literally any discipline, any profession you may think of. And even if you enter the profession, there were certain things they would tell you, no, these ones women cannot do. I remember being told a story by some colleagues of mine that women were discouraged from doing anything other than pediatrics. So it's good, women are good with children, you know. There was a time when you've qualified to be a doctor, you know what you want to do, but you would be advised that, perhaps pediatrics was
The
good
best way, the best
for
place
you to actually use a
Just stay with
God-given
children.
talent. And if you really must traverse it, maybe OBGYN, you could consider it. But that's it.
That's it.
Strenuous things like surgery, what have you, no. So that is no longer the case. Nobody even questions it. It's not even an issue. It is assumed you qualify, you can do whatever it is you want to do. So, yes.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So let's have this conversation. We are talking about the Constitution, right? We celebrated 10 years of the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. on the 27th of August. And we also remember the president the day before that had told us, you know what, let's not get caught up in this whole thing of, being fixated about not changing the constitution. We need to start thinking, now that we've celebrated 10 years, now that we've had this constitution for 10 years, let's also start thinking of what next? What's the next phase of the republic? What do we need to do to look at the reality of what we have seen, reality of what we've lived with now with this constitution, and start looking at what we can change? We spoke with some leaders, a person like Martha Karua, the party leader of NARC Kenya, and she said, you know what, yes, the president has a right to speak that way, but respectfully, I do not agree that this is a constitutional moment. We still have a lot of implementation of this constitution to do. But then there are those others who have said, yeah, we have gotten to a point where we've implemented the constitution and we have come to reality of things that need to happen. The Njeri deputy governor, for instance, who told us, look, 10 years we have seen, for instance, as chair of the National Deputy Governors Forum, she was saying the reality of things right now is deputy governors are just sitting in office and they need to be put to use by the people that elect them. So some of these things we can change. We can look at how best do we ensure that devolution works for the people of Kenya.
It is something that will never end, really. Because even with every generation and with the ever-changing times and the situations we find ourselves in, even our own constitution and our laws have to resonate with these changes for them to be fully beneficial to the citizenry. So that we have in the debate is a good thing, and this debate will continue. And it must continue. And it must be allowed to actually proceed to its very logical conclusion. And the logical conclusion is, at this point in time, this is what we believe will work. It's like this debate that we keep reading about in the Senate. Let it continue. Because with the continuation of that debate, we then get to discuss other things that ordinarily we wouldn't discuss if that debate was not there. And we also get to see just how exactly our senators think. And also how they think of us.
I think the conscious is then that it has been time-bound, or that it should be time-bound, and say that within a certain period of time, decisions should be made or minds should be made up. But I think the thing with a conversation like this is that you still have so many opinions joining the circus, throughout all of this. So I think also putting a cap on this discussion, sometimes you say to yourself, is there a time by which you should have a constitution that seems to be working for everybody, and at one time? Or do you say that it has worked for everybody with what we were facing at the current time? The constitution as it is has worked. As those things may change, we'll find that it's necessary to make a further amendment to see that it is suiting the needs of people at that time. So I think that it's also a conversation that needs to continue to be looked at as something that is fluid. In terms of something being set in stone, it then becomes more and more apparent every day that it can't be.
See, had this discussion not gone for as long as it has, the need for there to be a specific time limit wouldn't be happening. They would ask, but why must it be an issue? It's now becoming apparent that it is an issue. Other things will also come up. There are things we actually can't even see now. We can't even understand.
Will keep coming up that will affect this same discussion that we're talking about. Because what is peculiar at this time, in another 5 years, will definitely change.
Yes, it will.
So then you need to now keep it open and say, well, it's possible that we could have this conversation later. But for what we are dealing with right now, are there changes that are needed? Are there things that we need to take into consideration to make it then possible for people to live within the geographical boundaries of this country? Is it necessary to do at this time? Are certain things needed to be taken into consideration to make it happen? Then absolutely yes.
Eric always reminds us that our constitution begins with we, the people of Kenya, the real owners. It's unfortunate that we are absentee landlords. We actually own the constitution, but we've decided that other people should take charge of it. Now, these discussions simply bring to the fore your ownership, your rights, and the things that need to be done, and even how to do it. So, let these discussions continue. Unpleasant as it may be, you may be expelled from 3 villages, but there's 6 more to go.
Let's bring in somebody who understands the Constitution as well. And this is a senior lawyer. She is an MP. She's serving her 2nd term in Parliament. And this is Kandara MP Alice Wahome. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning, Eric. How are you, 5-7?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys? How are you doing, guys?
Fine.
We
thank
are
you.
well, thank you,
We're
Mheshimiwa.
well, thank you.
Okay, here I am.
Mheshimiwa, welcome, and thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the
All
Situation
the way from
Room.
Kandara. Yes, all the way from Kandara.
How is Kandara this morning? Is it raining?
Yes, it's okay. It's just a bit cold like this.
Mm.
Now
Oh.
I'm in Nairobi.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about this constitution. We have just celebrated 10 years of the constitution. I keep arguing, though, that from my side, it's just been 7 years of actually living the constitution. The first 3 years were kindergarten. We really shouldn't. But anyway, let's just say 10 years of the constitution, Mheshimiwa. And what's your view of it in terms of how far we have gone into the implementation of the constitution, how we have lived this constitution so far?
Okay, I will agree with the majority of Kenyans that we have a very progressive constitution. Not just Kenyans, actually. It has been lauded worldwide that we have a very democratic, very progressive constitution. The last, we must recognize it is 10 years, and the baby is now 10 years. And there have been gains because, one, we did take off as a country to implement the constitution, and therefore what we should be doing is looking at the gains and the losses, or where we are stuck and the reasons why we are stuck. But that's not something that you can force. That is something that you would have to come, it's still progressively. That is something that will have to be generated by Kenyans themselves as the implementation takes place. So we've done, maybe we could say, on a balance scale, you could say 50-50. We are there, but we would have been able to be in a better place had we the right, correct attitude, had we proper goodwill from the implementers of this constitution, and of course, had Kenyans been more vigilant. So I would call upon Kenyans to be more vigilant if they want to see better results in terms of this constitution.
Mheshimiwa, in your opinion, what would this vigilance entail, apart from just opening your eyes and seeing it?
Looking at it, no. The constitution is a document that was developed and enacted by Kenyans themselves. And it is not possible that we are going to leave to any one single person or any singular group or any individual or any person from out there. It is us. What I'm saying that what are these things that I'm talking about that have not gone correctly? If you look at the aspirations from the word go from the first article, the sovereignty. Then from sovereignty you come to the republic in chapter 2. Then you go to citizenship. Then you go to Bill of Rights. The document is robust. The aspirations and expectations of Kenyans was that, one, their lives will change. Of course, the change is not expected to be drastic, but the impact of that change is something by now we should be feeling very, very deeply. For example, one of the key areas where Kenyans were really looking forward is the Bill of Rights. The protection of Kenyans as a people in the Bill of Rights. The second one, if you ask me, is the devolution. You can see the stalemate in the Senate. You can see the demand for more resources. You can see the allocation of revenue is still a big challenge. You can see the corruption and lack of proper accountability and use of those funds, either by the national government or by the county government. You can see how Kenyans are interacting with their lives. Are we better? Are we poorer? I would say it's like we are poorer, which is really not what was expected. The socio-economic rights in the Bill of Rights, the human rights, freedoms of expression, democracy, inclusivity, equality of all persons, and equity. These were issues that should be starting to bear properly. But you know what? If you look also at the judiciary, because as a country we expect parliament and the judiciary to be key arms of government in this implementation processes. And then, of course, the independent commission, the police, the National Police Service Commission, Judicial Service Commission, look at the stalemate in the appointment of the judges, in the appointment of the judges by the head of state. Why is there a problem? Come back to Parliament. How is Parliament operating or functioning? Can Kenyans give us a tick at 80%, 100%, or at 10%? You'll find that right now, the independence of Parliament, independence of the judiciary, those key institutions, Eric, have received the greatest onslaught.
But it sounds to me,
from the executive.
When I listen to you and all those things that you've just listed, then I fail to see how you can say we have reached 50% of implementation. Sounds to me like you're only giving us a 2% at best.
You know why I'm saying that? Some of these things, Eric, can happen just like, because we have the framework. The legal statutes are already in place. Majority of the legal statutes are already in place. If you look at the document itself, it is available. We have a constitution that we are supposed to be implementing, not lamenting. By the way, okay, I don't want to sound like I'm lamenting, but we know we are celebrating 10 years. So a no date is inevitable by Kenyans, even by our neighbors, even by the entire world, to see how Kenya has done. Because if you look at this document, we did not just give it to ourselves. There were partners that walked along with us, Kenyan people, and this is a covenant, Eric. It's when I listen to some people talking about that we should prepare for a referendum in December, but you know what, we should, and I don't know, and I'm taking this cue because also there are us Kenyans who have fallen into that trap or into that narrative or into that decision. The head of state, with the greatest respect, and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga seem to now be sending messages that we should start preparing for receiving of the BBI, and from the BBI, the referendum. Let me just say, Eric, why the fact that we have the document, we should be saying, where have we gone right? Where have we gone wrong? And how can that then be addressed? And we have not gone wrong because of the insufficiency. I want to be clear. Not because of inadequacy of the Constitution, but because of lack of goodwill, because people are not willing to be bound by the Constitution. And I want to remind
lack of
Kenyans
goodwill by whom exactly?
And if I may ask on top of that, when you say people are not willing to be bound by what the Constitution says, whom exactly are we speaking of?
I need to expound on that and say the implementers of this Constitution, top on the list is the executive. Followed very closely there is Parliament. And then, of course, we come to judiciary. And again, then Kenyans, because Kenyans must continuously call the executive, Parliament, and judiciary to account. Am I maybe getting clearer?
Yep.
Yes.
So the executive is a very big roadblock or a big avenue to achieving most of these things. And, if I just want to refer to a case in point, two cases in point. We have a problem in the appointment of the judiciary. When you look through the articles that lead to the appointment, the scrutiny, the vetting, the interviewing, the processing, the Constitution gives a simple but very honorable role to the head of state, that of appointing the judiciary judges after the vetting, after the completion of the process by the Judicial Service Commission. If you listen to the arguments around why the appointment has not taken place, is like the president is not finding his role in that process of appointment.
Yeah.
But I think the Attorney General has failed to explain it, head of state, to His Excellency the President, that look, you have two appointees, a man and a woman, in the JSC, so they do receive information or consultation with the president, and also the head of the public service commission. There's a commissioner from there.
Yeah.
And of course, those are, so that is a big failure. And the judiciary is one of the institutions, government arms, that are supposed to be delivering service to the country. So that we are stuck without 40 judges.
This standoff,
Then
however,
the two-thirds gender rule. Parliament right now is staring at a dissolution. Maybe we can come to that later.
yeah.
But this standoff is not good.
Let me
The
just go
third
back to
thing-
this standoff before we move to the other points. The standoff on the
Yes.
appointment of judges. One
Yes.
could argue that this is actually now us seeing the implementation of the Constitution in full effect, where we are talking about what's the understanding of the spirit and letter of this Constitution by the various arms of government. So the head of the executive could argue and say, look, in my understanding, that I should have a role to play in terms of the appointment. The head of the judiciary could argue, and we've seen them arguing before the two heads of judiciary so far, saying, no, you don't have a role, you only have a ceremonial role. And the legislative arm of government could also be weighing in on this particular one, on setting the stage and saying, this is what is happening. If there's some sort of lacuna in the understanding of the law, how can we amend this? How can we make it very clear? This could be argued that this is actually the Constitution being implemented. As you remember, in 2005, we had the similar issue of appointment of
Yes.
judges where the president wanted to have a more direct say. This is the same thing that's playing out again.
You see, if you have been given two commissioners as the president, then unless you are saying you want to sit in there, the commissioners that you have are supposed to bring the material and information and consultation from the head of state to be able then to inform the JSC commission that, look, we have a problem. The head of state has and he is entitled to that. The head of state has a problem with so-and-so getting this appointment because of this. Because, there is a process before you reach to the appointing, which is now which is at that stage a ceremonial role.
Yeah.
And if there were no commissioners representing the president, consulting with and there is nothing that stops the president through his office consulting even with the judiciary, with the chief justice, because at that level, these are independent institutions mandated by the people of Kenya to guard the space, the democratic space, the political space, the governance space. So, and we cannot forget where we have come from as a country, where there was overbearing by the executive. The presidency had become a problem to Kenyans. That, as you say, the spirit of this constitution was, of course, to ensure that arbitrary decisions, roadside directions, and basically trampling on the rights and the democracy, the governance of a country is not left to one single person or one institution, and that the institutions that were mandated, let us remind ourselves that this constitution is our document, and nobody is above the constitution. That we are supposed to be consulting the constitution. You don't have to say, I don't feel like, or it is not okay. Kenyans wanted it that way. That, look, you will not be the one appointed, because appointment of judges is just one reference that we are making, because it's a critical aspect.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the one influencing judges, because judiciary had become also like a laughing stock. There was a lot of baggage, both from the executive. There were judges specifically given mandates or authority, directed orders from above prior to the making of the constitution. And that's why Kenyans removed that specific role to
True.
a single institution. So I just think that we just need to be loyal, promote, and protect the constitution. We constitutional office holders like the head of state, members of parliament, all these offices, we do swear to pay loyalty, to promote and to protect the constitution. And therefore, Eric, I think that that is one way. Then we do, and therefore Kenyans must understand that there is a space, there is a place for the presidency. And even after making the appointment, nothing stops. Because if you have some material that you feel that should stop somebody from occupying a constitutional office, and constitutional offices are key offices,
Yep.
then there is a process of removal still within the
same.
constitution and the appointment of in fact, within 14 days, if the president were to receive a petition from any single person, from Kenyans, through the JSC process, then within 14 days, he is required to actually suspend the judge.
Let's take a break, Mheshimiwa. We are speaking with Mheshimiwa Alice Wahome. She is the MP for Kandara constituency. She is a lawyer. She's taking us through her thoughts on the implementation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 so far. The conversation as we come out of the break will be heading towards what now we are hearing, which is, it's about time we started auditing this Constitution and seeing what changes are important, what changes are necessary, and her thoughts on that particular process and how it's taking place. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM, on www.spicefm.co.ke, on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also on KTN Home. 27 minutes after 7. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Spice FM. Njeri. "24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's been an uncertain couple of months, and we are still experiencing the effects of COVID-19 pandemic in our lives. However, we're bouncing back. Our resilience like never before has shown even brighter. And in our adaptation to a new normal, we find a purpose to believe in a better tomorrow. Which is why the Standard Group is bringing you the 47 million reasons. It's all about finding something and someone to be hopeful for during this pandemic. From first responders, mental health, unity to hope. We owe it to ourselves to keep going, getting stronger than ever. 47 million reasons, celebrating you and me. You are our reason. And we have 47 million of them. Brought to you by Radio Maisha, Spice FM, Vibes Radio, KTN Home, and BTV.
All right, sunny conditions in Nairobi at 11. Likely to see that rise up in the temperature, going to a high of 18 today. Partly cloudy conditions in Njeri today at 10. We'll see at 13 degrees, partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru, and sunny conditions in Eldoret, 12 degrees today. Kisumu will go to a high of 26 today, currently at 18. And the sun is out. 16 degrees in Kakamega, and partly cloudy conditions and a chance of rain later on. Mombasa, 21 degrees will go to a high of 27. Partly cloudy conditions and a chance of a sprinkle here and there. Malindi at 24 degrees and partly cloudy. Going to a high of 29 and a chance of rain later on. Kampala this morning is partly cloudy at 18 degrees and a chance of rain here later. Dar es Salaam foggy this morning at 21, going to a high of 26. Joburg at 4 degrees is sunny. Those conditions will continue throughout the day, going to a high of 15 and coming to a low of 3. It's partly cloudy in Lagos at 25, will go to a high of 30 and down to a low of 22.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
If you're on Nduh Road this Monday morning, you're in good standing because it's flowing very well today. No traffic whatsoever in both directions, so that is good. Where it is not, though, however, is on Mombasa Road, because right around the Old North Airport Road, rather, and Pipeline, there is traffic, and some jam. And it's going to take a while to get out of that. It's Monday morning, so that's what we expect. On the other side of Mombasa Road, heading to the CBD, coming from the SGR all the way to Cabanas, that also has built up significantly, and we're looking at a bumper-to-bumper situation. Right on Gong Road, the boys in blue are doing their job, however choose to interpret that. So traffic has slowed down just a little bit. It'll get you to the City Mortuary roundabout in very, very slow times. Apart from that, on Thika Road, getting into the CBD is not too terrible. As you get to the Globe Cinema overpass, you should be fine. If you chose to go via Forest Road, if you're heading towards Westlands, you're all right as well. It's a Monday morning, bound to see some more traffic in other areas. We'll let you know what that looks like as we go along. Do let us know what you see as well. SpiceMKE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
And we are back at 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Spice FM, KTN Home, and on our digital platforms. On the line with us this morning is Alice Wahome. She is the MP for Kandara constituency. In the room, as always, this morning, Eric Latiff, Nduh Okoh, and CT Muga.
Well, Shimewa, I'd like to shift gears a little bit, if I may. There has been talk, both in the print media, social media, that, well, one, Jubilee is imploding. That's one. Two, there's been talk that the implosion of Jubilee has brought about two factions, and that one of those factions, again it is being said, to which you belong, has decided to actually play the role of the opposition in Kenyan politics. How true is this?
Good. You know, as a member of Jubilee, I would like to be very candid on this subject. And I belong to one of the organs. You could say two organs. The parliamentary group is part of the organs that should manage Jubilee affairs. And then from the Jubilee parliamentary group, there is also the National Convention, where if you really want to consult Kenyans who are Jubilee members, then you can call a convention. Parliamentary group does a lot of consultation because of parliamentary work, and of course in liaison with the executive. There have been issues, and they have come out to the public that the all is not well within the party organs and within the management, purely because you cannot have keen officials responding to each other in the manner that has happened, and secondly, that the organs that are supposed to deal with these issues do not and are not allowed to meet. With the management, of course, you know, you have the Secretary General, who is the head of the Secretariat, and then reporting, of course, to the National Executive Committee. You have seen certain changes that are said not to have been properly consulted, you know, in terms of making and arriving at those decisions. So it's not okay. You know, some members are good, some members are said to be bad. Members should be loyal, they shouldn't question. Members should pay homage to certain offices, to certain individuals. I think it is not okay. The management of a party that is running and that has been mandated by the country to govern should be well managed, should be a showcase in terms of how things should be done. Jubilee has failed Kenyans, and I don't know. I don't want to. I think all of us could have had a
role to play.
But you see, the leadership of the party is with His Excellency the President as the party leader. and his deputy. And, you know, when you listen to the conversations around those quarters that are taking away the party, they say there's only one head of state, as if there were possibilities of two heads of state. The constitution is clear. We elected His Excellency the President, but there are people who want to run away with the party. And actually, and I think their intentions are clear, is to block the Deputy President, who is the party leader, from participating in the governance of the party, and with the sole aim of blocking him from running.
So with the
Take,
would-be...
for example, a vice chair, David Murade.
So can I ask you before you go to that, Mheshimiwa, so with the would-be implosion then of the party, is there a section of this party then that is said to be standing in as the opposition?
You know, as a member of parliament, if you asked me, you know, we were supposed to have, we are not supposed to agree. Even in a house, there are some disagreements, but it is how you deal with those disagreements that can make the home manageable or unmanageable. In a company or in a business, there are rules and regulations and codes of conduct. If you follow the codes of conduct, the party document as written, then we would not be having this problem. For now, yes, the Kiawereke team seem to be saying they are the owners of the party. The Tangatanga, or people named as Tangatanga, then seem to be opposition. Why? Because they have said no to certain misconduct, to disrespect. They have said no, you cannot treat people that way. Even when you look at our constitution, there is space and place for expressions, for discussions, for participation within political parties.
But the manner
So
in
you
which...
can now just come within a political party and start managing it like your own shop.
The manner in which the Tangatanga wing of Jubilee was conducting itself for the past 2 years, the first 2 years, for example, of this second administration, is what would be, you'd be accused of having gone all out. You're all boisterous, you are loud, you are appearing in all manner of meetings, and you are also castigating the Kieleweke side of Jubilee, and to some point also pointing towards feeling a vacuum because you were feeling like there was no proper leadership of this party. So when the leadership of the party wakes up, why do you complain?
You know, you can't wake up and then start running it as your own outfit. You are supposed to be guided by the Constitution. You are supposed to look at the rules. You are supposed to visit the document, engage the party documents. And there would be no problem with this. If it is disciplinary, then there are laid down procedures of how you discipline an errant member. You know, before even you reach disciplinary committee, then there is consultation, there is calls, there is conversation. What happens to those conversations, Eric? And when you speak, then you become the bad guy or the bad boy, or you are said to be disrespectful to the head of state. You know, that kind of dogmatic or simplistic way of handling party organs and the party, which is governing the country, then raises questions as to whether actually then you are doing well.
So are you saying essentially that the things that we see, if we're taking Tangatanga now, the things that we see the Tangatanga side taking issue with, had there been, according to you, proper consultation from the party leader in the way in which things were executed over the last few months, that you would not take issue with those particular things?
I think the party leader, with all due respect, has left too much leeway to people who are not working within the party document. He may mean well, he may want to give them maybe space to work, but I think people like Murade, people like Tuju should not be anywhere in Jubilee House. They have expressed their voices and views in terms of who they will stop from running in 2022. They have also said, and they are not expressing themselves as individuals because that would be okay, but they are expressing themselves from the seat of Jubilee, from the seat of the offices that they occupy. And of course, they have even proposed, like Murate has proposed, that Jubilee will not be having a candidate And he's doing this as a vice chair and sending threats. You know, those are very annoying things. And I want to say that the country should be watching and looking at some of these people and asking themselves, how would they have the audacity to do the things they do unless they are getting a cue from a very powerful hand within the Jubilee or within the government, and of course with the top leadership's blessing? How would you propose that an ODM candidate in Orange House would be our party leader? Is it that you have looked around and seen that we are dada heads, all of us, that we cannot as a party be able to produce a candidate? You see, every party has a major objective of producing leadership in the country. So if for Jubilee then we do not have material for presidency, we should then be folding up. You know, what are we saying?
Is this why then that Tanga had started campaigning for the deputy president as early as 2018? Because you wanted to position a Jubilee candidate well enough to the public?
That is okay, Eric, because you know, you might decide that the race for going to Nairobi will start this morning. Another person might decide that I will start in the afternoon. There's nothing wrong with that, because you know, we have freedom to think and to have political affiliation within the party. You can have those discourses. You can express yourself publicly. This is not the first time.
Can you also make decisions then at will?
It's not a decision. Those are just thoughts. You know, you have not said the party will do a BCD.
Okay.
You are saying as Jubilee, we would want to start preparing so and so as a candidate. And it's okay. Kenyans can start looking at that person within amiable time. But you see, we haven't set up a campaign. You know, saying it's different from starting campaign. The campaign period will come. We have not campaigned. We have been accused when we go, you know, to places with the deputy president. But if you look at even the other team, what have they been doing? You look at the ODM teams, look at the Kieleweke teams. Whenever they go, what do they go to do or to say? They go to politics. You know, they have been politicking. The biggest politics now in Kenya is not about 2022 presidency for deputy president. It's actually the 2022 candidate for a coalition or conglomeration of
political parties and leaders
that have been meeting in Kajiado. You know, that is really the latest news.
Mheshimiwa, if
it is still 2 years, Eric, to elections, then why would this same team that has been very offended then start telling us, look, prepare for a referendum? We have not, as a country, consulted sufficiently. And, you know, why would you tell Kenyans to prepare for a referendum? Let me ask.
Mheshimiwa, this is CT Muga here.
Yes,
if I hear you right, what you're telling us is that the Jubilee Party doesn't have internal mechanisms of checking its office bearers, like, say, the party leader, the vice chairman, and
Secretary General,
and that and other members, amorphous and otherwise, and that what we are hearing playing out as Tanga in Kieleweke is essentially a disagreement within Jubilee for lack of operational procedures of how it should conduct its business.
Where there is smoke, Muga, there is fire. I say that we have party documents. You know, we also have a manifesto to deliver services to Kenyans. But the party organs are available. They are there. They are written. They are supposed to be guiding those conversations, those engagements, those processes. But nobody cares about what is the party organ. You know, if these people are not respecting the Constitution, what are you talking about a party document? These people are returning this country to the dark days.
Again, if I hear you, you're then saying that the party is an individual or a few individuals and not...
a few individuals, which we never knew it will be eventually a few individuals. It is true. The party is right now being managed like a kiosk.
What are your next steps then? Because you sound completely disgruntled within this particular party, you sound like you really do not want to belong to this organization anymore.
I am
next
a
steps?
member of Jubilee. I have a 5-year term. Going forward, people have tried to do all manner of mudslinging, all manner of intimidation, all manner of threats and calls including removal of security from members of parliament who they think are supporting His Excellency the Deputy President, so that they can toe or take a certain political line or affiliation. It is not that they are saying go and work. It's because they are saying, why are you supporting so and so? Hold back, withdraw. Do not support this person. Or why don't you change your line of, they are not changing. Change your line of address. We want you to stop campaigning. We want you to move from this camp. They have divided us into camps. But when we campaigned, we were one house. We were one team. We made promises to Kenyans. We also had agreements among ourselves. We had a family that was warm, that was loving. We had a family that had leadership. We had a family that worked together. This family now works for, it has been hijacked. There are, of course, guests. The handshake brought in guests to the party, and the guests are happy and clapping and fueling the fight. So therefore, the leadership of the party needed to clean up, or and it needs to style up and work the right way. We never knew surely Jubilee.
Mheshimiwa, did the guest bring the problem to Jubilee, or did the president simply bring out the problem that has existed in Jubilee?
I think the guests are just happy and sitting pretty to watch and see. I don't want to really, we have.
So there was a problem with the siblings within Jubilee. At some point, Mheshimiwa, your party leader spoke out and said, let us reduce the campaigns. Let us reduce the political rhetoric about 2022 and focus on the present. But your wing of Jubilee, the Tanga wing, did not listen. In fact, the conversation around the ground, the conversation among the leadership of the Tanga wing was even going as far as saying the ground has shifted in Mount Kenya. If you were the party leader, wouldn't you take the kind of action that he has taken?
The ground has shifted towards what? If what we were doing is to engage the Kenyans, is to work with the Kenyans, is to do development, is to have His Excellency the Deputy President commission a project, is to have the President also commission a project. If that is politics, then allow us to do politics. We are not religious leaders. We are not shop owners. We are politicians. I don't understand how Kenyans would expect Alice Muga Wahome, even though I'm going to start to open a project, not say one word of the political direction the country is taking. I think people are trying to box members of parliament into a certain box, and it will not work, Eric and Muga. Muga.
Yes, Mheshimiwa.
When you come to Spice FM, you have a subject that you have to prosecute. We know what you do when you come here. So this talk is a narrative that was brought by the people who felt that the Deputy President chances and the arrangement for Jubilee that was there before we folded the other parties has a very big platform to actually market himself.
Mheshimiwa, I love your passion and I love your focus on the positions that you hold. But let me ask, as a politician, would you say that the voters in your neck of the woods in the Mount Kenya region support your view and that of your faction?
To get voters on your side, you would have to be near to the voters. You would have to deliver some of the promises that you made. You would also have to be reminded by the voters that you told us ABCD. The Mount Kenya region and Kenya as a whole that voted for His Excellency the President, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, the majority of those voters, Mount Kenya included, are still where they were. They would like to support Uhuru Kenyatta and His Excellency the Deputy President, and they would like a joint venture, a joint effort to actually bring the country together. The reason Jubilee was put together was to unite and unify the country. And we have covered about 41, I believe, of the counties with representation from the mandate of the people of Kenya. So Mount Kenya region, and I can tell you, and they know it, you will find like 80%. And the people are just quiet right now. They don't want these squabbles. They don't want the fight now. But they believe that we have a promise to keep. I don't want to call it a debt. We have a promise to keep. We are mature people. We are considerate people. We work as teams, and they are not stupid. I think they will make the right decision. Yes.
Finally, Mheshimiwa, as we come to the conclusion.
Talk the way I'm talking, but and you know what? They also feel very neglected by this government.
As we conclude, and that in fact, on that point that you've just said, the frustration that they have with the government, they feel neglected by this government. When it comes to the next election in 2022, assuming that the deputy president is also on the ballot, should he not be judged as the deputy president and deputy party leader of this Jubilee and this government that has let them down?
I think the baggage will be left with those people who have hijacked Jubilee. The baggage of failures and inability to deliver on the promises that Jubilee gave will be left with, the baggage will be left with those who have said that, you know what, we have other candidates, you know what, don't go this way, you know, the people who do not now want Uhuruto. I think they'll be left with the baggage. Kenyans expect that delivery of service by a government that worked together would be a unified effort, you know, a joint effort. And you cannot then, there is a dishonesty approach to the whole issue. There is a character and assassination. There is a narrative to even use institutions of power, institutions of authority in this country to isolate, to depict the wrong character of the deputy president. At that, Kenyans are now not interested. They are interested with now food on their table. Kenyans are interested in service delivery. They are waiting for water. They are waiting for health services in their, you know, universal coverage. They are waiting for job employment for the youth. They want proper use of the funds, that the revenue. You know, you have seen the theft that is occurring, you know.
Under this Jubilee administration.
Yeah. Under Jubilee administration.
Of the president and the deputy.
That baggage, I can sit here and say he will be able to vindicate himself.
We'll wait and see.
Given the position.
We thank you very much. We thank you very much, Alice Wahome, MP for Kandara, for speaking to us this morning. We'll invite you again for a continuation of this conversation, especially now looking at the run-up to 2022. It sounds like you're firmly behind the deputy president in whatever form or shape that he'll be in the ballot.
It is the people where I come from also, and Kenyans.
So you're representing the people?
Yeah.
I see.
The people.
Thank you very much, Alice.
The people. Yeah. Thank you very much for...
No, thank you, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you. Thank you. Asante sana.
Right. Asante, and have a good day. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Time for us to take a break on KTN Home and on Spice FM, as well as on our online platforms. We'll be back shortly. It's now 5 minutes to 8 o'clock.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
And let's remind you about the portal by the Kenya Ports Authority. And this is the information portal called Captain Cargo, Captain Kargo. And you find this on captaincargo.kpa.co.ke. Today we are looking at export procedures.
Yes, we are. So looking at documentations that are necessary for exports and how it is that you will get your stuff from where you're going, or rather where you are, to where the stuff is going. All right. So now we had talked about some of these important details. Now we start with, the arrangement of a booking space. So you need to book a space, and your agent then is issued with a shipping order. That order then now goes to KPA, and it's sent in terms of what is called cargo information. It is now lodged with KRA so that the bill that you need to pay basically is generated. And KRA then passes an entry and issues a release when that payment has been made. So we're looking at the process of some of these things to get your precious cargo on the way this morning, and what Captain Cargo gives in terms of information of how seamless the process actually is.
Remember, you can just get all this information if you log on to www.kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. Spice FM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice.
Conversation continues. What do you make of what Ali Sohome has said?
Well, I think it's very clear that the leanings have a lot more to do with character as opposed to the real because if we want to look beyond this, then that means clearly there was a rift way before any of this happened, before the handshake. So in terms of stability, it seems to me that it maybe wasn't very stable. But I think that just what she said, something that really struck me about was that if there was consultation in terms of the moves that were made within the party, that the more or less would be okay with the way things were carried out. If there was consultation, if you told us what was going on, if you really made it clear from a party point of view that, from a leadership point of view within the party, that this is the direction in which you were taking and we're all included in this, perhaps it would have been better.
If I remember correctly, there was a meeting of senators first in State House with the president, the party leader, and then there was a meeting of the members of the National Assembly in State House with the party leader. Some senators opted not to go for that meeting.
As did some members of
parliament.
Yep.
But you also hear what the complaint was, that it was not a consultative meeting. It was more of an information. This is what is going to happen. This is what we've decided. This is what we're doing. No consultation according to them.
And they knew about this before they went for the meeting.
It's leadership.
This is the leader saying this is how it's going to be, guys.
They were crying for leadership. They got leadership. If I remember correctly, during that time when the Tangatanga was going around the country, they were crying for leadership. They were saying they don't hear from the party leader or what direction.
And then they heard.
And then they heard, and they still did not like it.
But ask
they
yourself,
wanted to be
ask yourself
consulted.
this really very simple question. Okay. Up until everything that I hear about, the passion with which it is spoken, they're protesting the change. Up until that point, they were happy to complain about their leader. They were happy to mention him in innuendos. And then...
Or outrightly insult him.
Yes, outrightly. Then the very thing that they said they wanted happened. Lo and behold.
Leadership.
Now, the narrative changed. Because it was the same person. I am arguing that the possibility was that the change, they didn't expect it and then they didn't want it.
And in the manner in which they came, they didn't anticipate it at all.
So the handshake simply just helped muddy the waters according to their narrative.
This
And
just
But that
exposes
problem
the
was already
problems that we have with
there.
our political parties in this country. Alice Ohome is talking about the structures of the party not working. If you just listen to her, that's what she's talking
Who's
about.
supposed to make it work?
The structure of the party not working.
This
The
is-
members
this
and the
is
leadership of the
problem
party.
When you have a political party designed around an ideology, which is the way it's supposed to be, that's the problem. When you have a political party that then is around an individual,
Yep.
that's the
In
problem.
this case, it was
And you
designed
start to
around
see-
individuals.
It was
Yes.
around individuals.
And
It
then you
wasn't
see the
one
cracks.
individual,
The cracks
yes.
are forming not because of these people suddenly, but it is because the craft of the party from the very beginning was flawed.
But even
That's the issue.
even the support of that craft, did you hear anyone complaining about these things
At
early
that
on?
point,
No,
no.
because they saw that
Coming
it
to
was
the
going
top
to be
of the
to their
hour, though, it's
advantage.
now 8 o'clock. The conversation continues. Good morning.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM.
Right at Eastern
Kisumu.
Bypass interchange on Mombasa Road, it is bumper to bumper, almost headache-inducing from what we're being told. Normal traffic there all the way from Cabanas. It is moving, but it is moving painfully slowly this Monday. We expect that to be a lot of things to do as it is the exact end of the month falls on a Monday and everybody's out and about. So we know that that's going to cause some problems today. Juja Road traffic is still looking pretty good. We don't have much of an issue. It's a bit clogged up right in industrial area, and that's affecting traffic then on Jogo Road as you head to the City Stadium roundabout. Coming out of there into the CBD, however, you shouldn't have too much of a headache. It should be all right. Off of Thika Road into the CBD as well is fine. We know that because of the expressway that's being worked on, Uhuru Highway is going to have some problems for the coming days. And we already see evidence of that between Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way to Westlands. You're going to have to sit it out there and be extremely patient, guys. Or, here's an even better idea, leave earlier. Spice FM KE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know what you see.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your
day. Thank you very much
day.
for tuning in to Spice FM and KTN Home, as well as www.spicefm.co.ke. We live stream this show, The Situation Room, which is Kenya's biggest conversation, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Spice FM KE is our channel and our page, and you can find us all over there. So for the next hour as well, we will be live on KTN Home. Let's shift gears and come back to what's happening with the management of COVID-19 in the country. Now, of course, the issue now is not about beds. We have moved from beds to testing capacity to all those things to face mask. We moved from that into how much?
But does it actually mean that those problems were solved, or have we just moved on?
Of course not.
No.
We have shifted our focus into, so how much were they costing us? Who was involved in the procurement? How was the procurement done? Did we get value for money? Did we actually even get anything at all? Right? So we see that there's investigations that are going on at the Senate. The president has ordered the investigative agencies, and one would assume this would be the DCI and the EACC, to conclude investigations within 21 days. And when we were talking about this earlier during the newspaper review at about 6:40, we were saying that, when you give about 21 days, you are rushing a process that may need to get into the audit of the procedures that were followed. But we heard from the Senate on Friday, the CEO, the suspended CEO of KEMSA, went to the Senate and said, I was receiving instructions from the higher-ups. And the higher-ups in this case, he mentioned the PS and the CS in the Ministry of Health. We know that the CS has talked about this previously and said there's cartels that run this particular ministry. The people who are supposed to have been receiving some of these donations, for example, that were brought into the country, some of the equipment that is supposed to be going to manage the healthcare system are our frontline workers, and these are the healthcare workers. Among them, of course, the doctors. And the Kenya Medical Association has been speaking out about this particular matter. So now let's bring in the president of the Kenya Medical Association, Dr. Onyino. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Dr. You have, of course, seen what's unfolding now. We are talking about COVID millionaires, and just from the onset, when you heard of the COVID millionaires, when you started seeing the stories emerging of what is happening with the JACMA donations at the JKIA, what was happening with the procurement at KEMSA and in other counties at Avia House, what came to mind?
As a fraternity, we were really disappointed, and we are left shocked because all along during this pandemic, most of our members have actually been struggling with an issue of lack of quality personal protective equipment. And here we were in a situation where we got donations, from the Jack Ma Foundation to help us mitigate some of these deficiencies that we did have. And here, all over the media, you see stories of how the donations and actually the funds allocated towards the COVID-19 pandemic have been not properly been accounted for. So as a fraternity, we were left very disappointed and shocked that even money allocated for such critical items can be spent in the manner that has been shared by the media in the last 2 weeks.
But looking at the operations of the health ministry, Dr. Were, would you really say that the medical fraternity was shocked? I mean, this is not the first time that we are seeing this kind of scandal emanating from AFI House or from the Ministry of Health or from the management of our healthcare system.
It's not the first time. We've had other scandals, and what we have proposed and suggested as the Kenya Medical Association is a reform agenda in most of the agencies that operate under the Ministry of Health, with a view of having them functional and being able to actually perform the mandate which they are formed. So, in as much as it's something that we have seen, we had the AFIA 1, AFIA 2 scandals, we thought that in such a time where the whole world is grappling with such a pandemic, this is not something that will be the funds allocated to sort out the issues of COVID-19 pandemic will also be treated in such a manner. So I know reforms have been ongoing in the Ministry of Health, although slow and painful. We've seen the cartels fighting back the same reforms. And our shock comes from the fact that this was not a normal scenario to be treated in the manner in which we have seen. So it's like it has been business as usual, despite the very trying times we find ourselves in.
I'm curious as to now, so there's certain things that have been asked to happen. We hear from the president 21 days since when he made this announcement for these investigations to take place. So let's look and say that this has happened and it's found that there's misappropriation of these funds that could essentially have taken care of quite a number of health workers, for example, would have maybe helped to manage the situation when it came to COVID in the country. Then what? From the KMA perspective, what then would that What then would that be able to produce?
From the KMA perspective, I think once those 21 days elapse and the investigative agencies are able to get to the bottom of this, and actually, if they find any of the officers who have been implicated, then culpable of the misuse of these funds, then I think what we'll expect as an association is they need to step down. And I think we'll have to consider having new leadership, especially in the dockets that have been affected, so that we can move forward and actually the ministry should be able to perform its function, which is to ensure that everyone has access to safe, affordable, and quality healthcare in this country.
Will that cut it? Because you just a few minutes ago mentioned that, even with the reforms that you see, which are slow and painful, that we see that the cartels are fighting back. Would it cut it to have senior leadership within the ministry step down? If we have an internal rot in the ministry, is it just enough to say resign?
This is Africa and Kenya, to be specific, where we don't see people resigning or taking responsibility and actually shifting blame most of the time when issues of accountability of public funds come into play. So, of course, as an organization, we'll expect them to actually own up and step aside. But this should be guided by proper investigations being done by investigative agencies, so that the real culprits who are actually taking us back in time in terms of the fight for COVID-19 are actually brought to book. So, in as much as it's something that is not normal, in our political space. I think it will be a step in the right direction if the leadership owns up that mistakes were made, and then we move forward towards correcting that mistake and putting systems in place that will not allow such a thing to happen in future. And of course, with that, as an association, we are willing to step in and give our professional input as we've been doing all along this COVID-19 pandemic, and to help the government better respond to the issues on the ground where our members are.
Beyond asking members who have been found culpable of certain misdeeds, beyond asking them to step down, is there anything else the association does?
Of course, that will leave for the Office of Public the judiciary to sort that
Actually,
out.
I wasn't going in that direction. I was asking if someone is a medical doctor, right, for instance, and you found them to be, they are found to be dishonest and untrustworthy with public funds, how then can you trust such a person with human lives?
Individuals are different. We all come from different households. We are raised differently, so you cannot blame an individual weakness of the whole fraternity. And of course, even in the medical space, we have mechanisms of ensuring our members are held accountable in terms of the code of practice, in terms when they are found guilty by a court of law, to have actually not been accountable with public funds. So if something like that happens and it affects one of our members, then they have to take personal responsibility. But that one, we cannot just base on hearsay. We need the investigative agency to do a proper job and actually get to the bottom of what the matter is.
It sounds like you want to leave this to just the investigative agencies, and the Kenya Medical Association itself will be just a spectator in this particular case. But it involves your mainstay. It involves the taking care of people's health. It involves people ensuring that they steal money that was meant to have gone to protect your healthcare workers, stealing money that would have helped the healthcare workers to take care of their patients. What else can the KMA do? And, as opposed to just sitting back and saying, let's wait and see how these investigations unfold.
Of course, as part of the auditing process, KMA is willing to participate with the network that we have throughout the country and our members. We will be able either to correlate or confirm that we actually received these PPEs on the ground, that we actually, as part of the audit process, that money allocated for hiring of more healthcare workers, that on the ground we actually saw some healthcare workers being hired by the government to respond. So I think that is a role that we can play. And in the past, actually, Kenya Medical Association used to have a seat as part of the board of KEMSA. I know we lost that along the way, but I think this is the role as professionals we can play, because imagine I'm sitting on that board, or a member of KMA is sitting on that board. We cannot allow such a critical function or such critical items that we need for our members to be used in the way that you've been seeing being portrayed in the media in the last 2 weeks. So, of course, we'll be willing to participate in the audit process, just like we participated in ensuring that we have quality PPEs coming into the country to ascertain whether our members actually got these PPEs on the ground. And also in future, maybe as part of the reforms, then being able to sit in the board of management as an organization to give our professional input on the table.
But Dr. Were, have you already started taking leadership in this? I would expect that maybe if you're already considering it, you'd already have rolled out mechanisms of auditing what exactly your healthcare workers received around the country, so that by the time investigators are coming to ask you, you already have a file ready. Or if Senate asked you can even volunteer to go to the Senate committee and say, this is what happened on the ground.
Yes. Actually, the process has started. Immediately, the expose came out in one of the media stations. We actually linked with the network that we have from our members in different divisions, all the way from Kisumu to Mombasa. And we are actually compiling an objective report from the ground in terms of what is the situation now. And that has always informed our weekly advice to the government, where we have the COVID-19 response committee that actually meets and gives advice to the government in terms of what the situation in the ground is and what we need to do. So this data has been collected since the pandemic started. It's just a matter of putting them together. And if you are invited to the Senate, then we will be available to actually provide that data so that it can be used to hold the officers involved more accountable.
This data that you're currently providing, what purpose is it serving beyond just information for the government?
You see, the data that we'll be able to provide from our members is basically trying, because you see, the investigative agencies will need to know the truth from the ground, because the message that has been going out consistently is that all our healthcare workers are protected and they are properly equipped to actually respond to this pandemic. But if you go on the ground, the situation is different, where you find you're supposed to have one mask the whole day and you're interacting with different patients. So you're not safe for yourself as a healthcare worker or as a doctor, and also you're not, the patient who's coming to see you is not also safe, because then the risk of transmitting the infections to these patients then increases. So this data will help the investigative agencies actually correlate what we've been told, that, for example, the JACMA donations never reach the ground. We have members all over the country. We have members in Kemri. We have members in these organizations, and be able to tap into the experience they have or the information they have to actually provide this information to help the investigative agencies get to the bottom of this.
Dr. Were, I'm stuck on a little point here.
Yes.
If one of your members is found to have abrogated certain medical processes, I'm sure you have a way of dealing with such matters. Now, it's a yes or no question. And
yes, we do.
Yes, you do. Yes,
we have
you
a
do.
code of practice.
Precisely.
Yes.
Now, within this code of practice, do you have a code for restitution? Because if a member does something errant, is there a time within which they can be brought back to the fold? Is there a way of bringing them back into the fold?
There is a mechanism in place, and I said there's a professional code of conduct which was developed by the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, and I was instrumental in that when I was serving in the same board, where if you find that one of our members has actually done something that has injured the whole fraternity, then and affected the confidence of the public, then we should be able to do our own investigations and make our recommendations to the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council for corrective action to be taken on such a member. But as I've said, that has to be left. We have to presume everyone is innocent until we have the facts.
No, I'm talking about when someone is actually guilty. But restitution, surely people make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, they must be given an opportunity to perhaps correct those mistakes and get back as much as they possibly can to the lives that they had before. This is what I'm asking. Is there such a mechanism?
There is definitely such a mechanism within the association, and also working hand in hand with the regulatory body, which once that information is provided to us, then we should be able to act on it.
Now, let me ask what I really wanted to ask. Now, if somebody who is a medical doctor is in a position of authority, say within government, and they make decisions which, not only put the lives of your members in danger, but put the lives of those in the public domain in danger. Now, when they are found to be culpable, what then? If what you have doesn't work, what then will your administration, because you're president, try and put into place to ensure that not only are they held accountable, but that the process of restitution also takes place?
we can hold them accountable within our organization and within the powers we have. As you know, KMA is an association representing doctors, and our key responsibility is to mind the welfare of our members. And we're actually trying to push, part of the reforms we're trying to push is to have Kenya Medical Association being a self-regulatory body where we'll be able to handle issues where some of our members become errant in terms of performing their functions. But now, as the law provides, it's still under the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council, who will be able to review the information that will be shared once they are found guilty, for example, from the judiciary. And there are different things that can be done, which include suspension of the member from practicing for a certain number of months to years, revoking of the license, and then we leave it now to the judiciary to actually now, if the funds can be traced, then to put mechanisms in place to recover those money or funds that have been lost.
Dr. If we look at KMA as a professional association and we look at the other professional associations on what is expected of them by their members and by the general public, as KMA, you have been seeing what's been happening at Afia House, for example, and you just said Afia, the scandal, the first scandal, the second scandal, and this latest scandal, and even to a point where the CS himself comes up and says there's a lot that happens in these corridors of Afia House. As a medical association, is there anything that you have ever done to try and unravel the persons behind all these cartels, to try and identify who exactly are these barons, and to try and, let's say, just bring down this particular cartel?
We have consistently, and even if you look at most of the press media statements we've been issuing about all these scandals, we have consistently advocated for professionals' input in terms of trying to resolve these, I can say now, chronic corruption that you are seeing in our mother institution. So we have consistently voiced our concern about it. We have consistently actually advised and requested to sit in some of the boards, which happily we do sit, and we have actually been able to push for that reform agenda within those particular institutions.
But beyond voicing concerns, Bona President, beyond voicing concerns, what action have you taken? I mean, you are the end consumer. Whenever this cartel goes and infiltrates the procurement route, you're the end consumers of what, whether it's the drugs or the equipment that they buy. You're the end consumers. What action have you ever taken?
We have protested against it, and if you look at most of our members working together with the Doctors Union, we have actually come out and even participated in an internal investigation within the ministry, where we came up with a Musimi Task Force report, where we actually came up with this policy document that recommended the changes that needs to be done in the ministry, so that we can be able to have it more functional or more effective in performing its function, so that we can have everyone have access to quality healthcare in this country. So we have protested against it in writing. We have participated in the reform agenda within the boards, and we have actually even held protests against it. And I know more can be done, and we continuously engage the Ministry of Health in terms of coming up with policies that are reform-based and that will ensure that actually such a thing like we have seen the COVID-19 millionaires does not come up. But you see, the implementation then has to be, we can push for it, but the government then has to buy in our professional input and actually implement it itself.
Well, let's continue this conversation after this short break. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. On the line with us this morning is Dr. Were Onyino. He is the president of the Kenya Medical Association. We are talking about COVID-19 millionaires, the corruption cartels at Afya House, what we are seeing now, the investigations ongoing at KEMSA, the management of the COVID-19 funds, and all this because it affects the people who are our frontline workers, and these are the medical professionals, the doctors, and the others. And this is what Dr. Were Onyino is giving us this morning. This is a Situation Room at 25 minutes past 8. Time for a quick break. We'll be back shortly.
Spice FM. Njeri.
Okay, so Nairobi is looking bright and
The
shiny this
weather.
morning, and it's warming up in temperatures, going up to 13, and we're likely to see this through the day. A chance of a sprinkle later, but we're just going to have to wait and see. In Njeri, it's partly cloudy at 10 and rising to about 12 earlier parts of this morning. And we'll see showers later on. Nakuru, partly cloudy conditions at 13, rising to 15, and then highs of 18 today. Eldoret, rising to highs of 20, and a chance of showers there. It's definitely going to shower in Kisumu later. Currently sunny conditions at 18. It's sunny in Kakamega at 16, and thunderstorms being invited in the afternoon. Mombasa is partly cloudy at 21 degrees and will rise to a high of 27 today. Malindi is hot and warm at 24 today, going to a high of 29. Step out of Kenya and look into Kampala, where it's 18 degrees and partly cloudy, rising slightly to 20 and 21 this morning, and then to an overall high of 26. Dar es Salaam at 21 degrees is still foggy and hazy this morning, and the fog and haze will continue through into the evening. Joburg at 4 degrees is cooling down again after we thought the winter was over, but not just yet, coming down to lows of 3 and highs of 15. And finishing off in Lagos for now, 26 degrees and partly cloudy. Chance of rain as it is the rainy season now, with highs of 30.
Mellow Spice.
Right, so the cops on Gong Road, who are making sure that you get to work a little bit later, have then been consulted by their boss this morning in terms of why they're holding things up, guys. So I guess your shouting did make some noise, and those handouts that they were asking you for now have stopped. And Gong Road is looking a lot better this morning. Coming off Mombasa Road and getting into the city centre is also looking good. There's a hold up at North Airport Road, the eastern bypass there. Heading towards Utawala is moving slowly, but it's moving all the same. Getting to the southern bypass as well as using an option to get into the CBD and avoiding Mombasa Road will also work, but then it'll get stuck right around Langata Road. But it won't be too terrible though. So good tidings this Monday morning in terms of traffic and how that's concerned. Coming off of Thika Road and off of Jogo Road as well. It's not too terrible. Bumper to bumper in some places, but you'll get where you need to go soon enough. Spice7KE. That's how you can get in touch with us on Twitter.
But what did you say? So the cops on Gong Road have been told by their boss,
To stop doing that thing that they were doing. Just relax. It's Monday, man.
take a break.
Yeah.
Let's do it after they've gone to work.
And then their boss showed up. Of course, they listened.
Okay.
Spice up your life. .5 Spice FM. Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's now 29 and a half minutes after 8 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Broadcasting each and every morning on Spice FM in Nairobi, 94.4, in Mombasa, 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru, 96.0, Eldoret, 96.7, Njeri 90.9 and Malindi 97.7. We also live stream the show on www.spicefm.co.ke as well as Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. We are also live on KTN Home for the next 30 minutes. On the line with us is the president of the Kenya Medical Association, Dr. Were Onyino. And CT, you've got a question for the Dr.
Yes. What I wanted to ask was this. he talked about policies and the conversations they've had with the Ministry of Health. And if I understand it, the Ministry of Health has departments and it has divisions. Many of these are actually populated by medical doctors. So beyond just the conversations and pushing by having more conversations and determining policy and probably going to talk to the Committee on Health within Parliament, what else does the KMA do to ensure that all these policies that they are agitating for actually become a reality?
Okay, thank you. I know in the Ministry of Health we have some of our members who serve in different capacities, but as you know how a government functions, we
Actually,
as a
no, we
Ministry of
don't.
Health,
Tell us,
so
how
many-
does a government function?
I've not served in government despite being.
I apologize for putting you on the spot, but
it's a complex process, and you cannot really zero in and say that since our members do have technical positions in the Ministry of Health, then they need to do more. Of course, what we know, they have done their best. We are always in constant communication in our meetings, and the final implementation step of these policies is mostly determined by the politicians who are actually heading these ministries. And if you see, from time to time, we have actually been advocating that we do have actually technical, a doctor even to the most senior, most position in the ministry are serving there so that they can better implement these policies because they understand it better. But you see, once it's a political process or a political appointee who comes on board, we can only give the technical advice, but also, the government has its own priorities and there are so many other considerations and balancing they have to do.
Daktari, there is no one in this country who at some point or the other does not need the help or the attention of a doctor, including these politicians we are referring to. There is talking to them as groups, but then there's lobbying, surely. All these high-flying politicians and powerful people have doctors, and many of them are your members. Have you actually exercised the entire might of your membership to actually ensure that the things that you want are pushed to the level that they should be?
We actually continuously do that, and from if I just give you can have a peek at my diary, and you can see working together with structures within our organization. We have actually reached out to the ministry level. We have actually, where we sit in different committees, technical working groups. We have reached out to the Parliament, where Parliamentary Health Committee, to the Senate Health Committee, and we continuously engage them to actually implement these sound policies that we do have as a country.
And is
for
it
a matter
working?
of fact,
I've got to ask, is it working? Because if you say you have a
It's
diary
work-
full of constant meetings and constant communication over and over and over again, engaging these individuals, is it bearing fruit or has apathy set in? So it's a tick the box exercise when you say, I've got to have this meeting because it's necessary for it to be seen that there's something I'm doing.
In some instances, it has actually worked. And I can give you an example actually in this COVID-19 pandemic where we were very instrumental in terms of pushing for a COVID-19 fund to be established. And through this fund, we have seen, working with some of our partners, we have actually seen initiatives from the private sector where personal protective equipment and other infrastructure development issues being addressed by this constant lobbying and through the different organs of government. So in some instances, it has worked. In some instances, is where now we see the cartels coming to stop the good work that you are doing in terms of diverting those funds to be used to other things. And just as a matter of note, Rwanda, which is part of the EAC, if you look at most of their health policies and the things they're implementing in their country, they actually borrowed from Kenya, and they're actually doing well. And I think it's something that we need to now get into the culture of actually implementing these good enriched documents that we have at the Ministry of Health. So in some instances, we have had success stories. It's not all failures, and in some instances, we need to do more.
How vibrant is your calling out mechanism? Because you talk about, knowing who the barons are, knowing who these cartels are. You start up something and then you hit a roadblock, and the erectors of this particular roadblock then would be the cartels, as you've mentioned. How efficient is your calling out mechanism at the time that it happens to say, this is what is going on at this point? Because I see a situation where if there are certain things that you've been trying to accomplish over time, and it is the same people who keep posing roadblocks over and over, that you would want to say something like this in public. Or is it too scary of a thing to comprehend?
We can only do as much as a professional association, but we will continue pushing for these reforms. And I think the term cartel is actually a bit misleading, because when you put cartel, then people are able to hide behind that term instead of the certain officers taking responsibility for the action of the officers who sit there.
Okay, since you introduced it as a cartel, so are you now saying that it is not actually cartels, but it is people who've been tasked with the responsibility to get something done within the ministry and are actually not doing it?
I think that I'll correctly put it as that, but what I'm saying, the issue of cartels is a bit misleading, because people will tend to hide behind these curtains called the cartel.
Yep.
And if you go to the bottom of it, you find it's individuals who are actually supposed to be providing public service,
Right.
who are not doing it according to the laid rules and regulations that are in our ministry. So these individuals then need to take individual responsibility, and they need to be taken to task so that you can be able to address these issues. But when you say cartels, then everyone goes and hides behind
And
that.
says there's a cartel.
Is it possible to unveil who these individuals are?
Absolutely.
The best person or the best institution that can be actually get to the bottom of it, we have the DCI, we have and the judiciary, with the work together,
Right.
then be able to get and identify who these culprits
But
are.
it gets
And
information.
because they're just criminals, and
It
then take action.
The investigative agencies get information from people
In
and
fact,
from institutions.
Yeah.
Would it be possible for the Kenya Medical Association to go ahead to the EACC or to the DCI and actually blow the whistle on these particular individuals?
If we know them, we'll gladly do it. We'll gladly write to these different institutions and provide them with the information that they need to actually be effective in the function that they do perform.
I'm sorry, Doc, but I'm finding it difficult to actually comprehend and accept that an institution as influential and powerful as the Kenya Medical Association would find it hard to know who these particular officials are who are not doing their job. It is possible for Eric not to know. It is not possible for the Kenya Medical Association, with all the might and with all the history that it has, not to know, really.
I wouldn't say that we are completely blindsided to who the individuals are. But we have the rule of law in this country, and we have to follow, we have to abide by the Constitution and the different organs and the roles that they have to play in terms of getting to the bottom of this. In as much as an association we can call out, it only serves as maybe directing them to the right place where they need to do more in terms of looking into the accountability issues that we constantly face. But as I've said, it's still a political responsibility at the end in terms of ensuring that these particular individuals, who for me they're just basically criminals, are then held accountable for stealing of public funds.
Do you think they're actually going to go and
the
report themselves? I've just got to ask. Do you think, if you say that it is political, individuals who have political leaning or affiliation are the ones then who then bear the responsibility to do this, and it may be their colleagues, do you think that they're actually going to go and report themselves?
That would be a new normal in Kenya. But
Exactly.
Yeah, so what we can do as an organization, we have our networks. We know one or two individuals. We see what is happening on the ground, and we are ready and available at any time to provide that information so that the investigative agencies can actually do their job. But then, as I said, the buck stops with those investigative agencies and the political leadership then to take action once that information is provided to them.
Does KMA and the individual disciplines represented within it have a mechanism for not just self-regulating, but self-assessing the performances of their members within what is required of them?
We have members who serve in different boards in the Ministry of Health, and we have meetings where they actually report back to us in terms of how they're representing the organization and what we want to push, the agenda we want to push in those bodies. But in terms of those members of who work in different government bodies, then I think there's a clear HR department, HR function, where they have their own performance appraisals and they're able to be held accountable in terms of performing their function in those particular offices. So we can only hold the members that we have sent into the boards, but the others who serve in government and other institutions, and those institutions have their own mechanism of doing a performance appraisal and knowing how the members actually do perform their jobs.
You know, there's a risk here, Doc, of the public actually looking at KMA and other such professional institutions and seeing as if they are complicit. Because, again, looking back at the kind of influence that the KMA has, if you look at your membership, people who have either been members before, they're current members, they've been leaders of this organization, are senior people in government, are senior people in the private sector. So you basically have a network that understands how healthcare works in this country from beginning to the end. You understand how procurement of healthcare happens. You understand how management of healthcare happens. And when you sit back as an association and say, you know, we want to point fingers and make noise at officers who are not doing their work and not mentioning them and not saying this is exactly the office that is responsible for this, that, and the other, then you could be seen to be complicit.
Contrary to that, we have not been complacent to what has been happening. In fact, if I can just emphasize, we have our members who actually serve in the Ministry of Health, and they are actually doing their work professionally and to the best of their ability as they've been trained. And the challenges that they do face is actually now in implementation of the professional inputs that they do give to the Ministry of Health. So we are not complacent. We continue to participate, we continue to advocate for implementation of these policies developed by our members, who most of the time do their work. Actually, majority of them, I know them as colleagues, and they actually do implement, they do their work as professional as possible. And we have continuously guided them, we have continuously spoken out against any misuse of the public funds meant for COVID. We have continuously, every week, put out an advice on terms of where we need to go and what we need to go to actually address this pandemic or respond to it better.
But
So
have
we are
you
not
have you
complacent.
ever
We have actually-
censured any of your members because of a role that they may have played in their place of work?
In fact, if you remember, in the past leadership of the Ministry of Health, we actually did censure one of our very senior members for going against the professional code of practice as we know it. So we have done it in the past, and we are ready and willing once all the information has been crystallized to actually call out any of our members and guide them in terms if they're not doing their function well. But as I've said, our members have continuously performed their functions in the ministry professionally. And what we need is a political environment to be made better so that these policies that they've actually developed are actually implemented to serve Mwananchi better.
Looking at the lessons that the country is learning from COVID-19 and going back to the implementation of what we were seeing earlier as, the universal health coverage program, what do you think the lessons are that we can take from this?
The lessons that we are getting from this particular pandemic and the issue of the COVID-19 millionaires is we need to ensure that we have the different agencies of the government, and I'm talking about the different boards and councils, properly constituted according to the law, which actually was done according to the Mwongozo principle, where we envisioned good governance in most of these boards.
Yep.
And we need to give them the independence to actually perform their function, guided by their different boards, so that they can be able to hold the officers who work within those agencies accountable. Once we respect the professional input and ensure that there is space, the political space is there for these agencies to actually perform their function,
right,
that I think will be able to actually implement the UHC program better.
Doc, stay on the line as we also bring in nominated Senator Sylvia Kasanga, who's just called in. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And karibu to the Situation Room.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate.
You're part of the team that is investigating this scandal at the Ministry of Health with regards to COVID-19.
Yes.
And you've heard the conversation that we're having with the president of the Kenya Medical Association. Do you have a question that you'd like to ask him?
Yes, a question, a request, and as well a bit of a challenge. We've had interactions with KMA at our ad hoc committee of COVID-19 earlier. And they did come in and they gave us quite a bit of information on how the government was handling the COVID situation on the early onset. And they gave us very good information to work with. And they did give us also areas where we could intervene as politicians on helping, interactions with the national response team. And we really appreciated it. Now, we've not had a second interaction with the KMA, but I've listened very keenly to the president, and I appreciate that Spice FM has had him today. I've listened very keenly. As you're aware, we are looking for the COVID billionaires.
Yep.
And we are really curious on how things move around, instructions move around, how money moves around in the Ministry of Health. Now, I would have expected KMA to have truly told us something. And he has very well said that they may know a thing or two, and they are available. If somebody reaches out, they are available to give whatever information. So I'm reaching out. And I want him to come and address the committee and tell us what they know. KMA does have committees that work with government. That one they told us.
Yep.
And we know the role they played in this COVID situation. And they did a fantastic job from the early onset. But surely now we are looking for COVID billionaires. We want answers. We are happy to receive any form of answer. And that 1 or 2, 3 things that he says he's aware or he knows, we want him to come to the committee and address us. And I also just want to remind associations. Associations have a very critical role to play in issues of governance because they can lobby. And I'm happy you did push him to answer as to why they don't lobby adequately. He was very cautious with his answers. But they have a duty to Kenyans. They have a duty to Kenyans. They have a duty to lobby, right?
Yep. Senator, we are losing you, but as you get your line back online, Dr. Were, you've heard the challenge that the senator is basically just throwing at you. You've said that you may know a few things here and there. The Senate committee is investigating who the COVID millionaires are, who the actual beneficiaries of our money are.
Yes, I'd like to thank Mheshimiwa for actually highlighting the role that Kenya has actually played. And I think we'll wait for the invitation from Senate. If they want our views and tell them what we know, we'll be more than willing to actually do that. And actually accept the challenge. As an association, we need to do more. And you're going to see more being done in the next few months and days and 2 months as an association in terms of improving the governance and ensuring there is good governance from our mother ministry. So we accept that challenge and we're going to do more. And Latiff, I'm sure you're aware that we've just come into office barely a month. So we'll be able to pick up from the past good work done by our predecessors and actually take it to another level. And we'll be willing to work with the Senate and the Parliament, in fact, to further strengthen KMA to become the self-regulatory body for doctors so that you can hold our members more accountable.
I think also, as you look at this, there's an image to promote as well as protect when it comes to this association, and looking at the critical role that you have to play when it comes to some of these things. And even as you said, as you're waiting for this invitation, I think when we look at some of these things, certain proactivity then also would be required, especially when you're working within a time frame that, as we speak now, is running out. And if things are going to change, if things are really going to change, then the way of doing them also needs to change for that kind of change to come about. What, in terms of a facelift for the state of health in this country, vis-a-vis the way things have always been done when it comes to health, needs to take place for us to see this kind of change that we are talking about?
Actually, what we can do as an association, of course, we will be able to provide any kind of documentation or information that will be requested of us. But I think as a step moving forward to ensuring that there's better governance and accountability from the Ministry of Health, I think it's time that the professional input, especially from KMA, is actually considered, and the policies that we contribute towards development in different committees are actually implemented. If that is done, I can assure you'll see a lot of improvement in terms of how health services are rolled out in this country. And of course, that goes hand in hand with working very closely with the County of Council of Governors and the counties to ensure that actually Mwananchi there at the village level is able to access quality and affordable healthcare. So the issue is we'll continue pushing for the implementation because we have the good laws. And as I've said, Rwanda is actually just implementing our policies. And you can see the change of the impact of that in terms of their health system and the health space, and even the way they have responded to the corona pandemic. And I think back home, we need actually to consider very seriously the professional input, especially from KMA, and implement it so that we can move forward and leave the issues of the scandals at our mother ministry in the past.
Thank you very much, Dr. Owiro Onyino Were. Thank you for speaking to us. Dr. Were is the president of the Kenya Medical Association. We thank you for speaking to us this morning, and we hope to have more conversations with you in the near future.
Thank you, Latiff. Thank you for having me.
Asante sana, and thank you very much to our audience on KTN Home for tuning in to the Situation Room this Monday morning between 7 a.m. and now coming up to 5 minutes to 9. We'll be back on KTN Home tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. again. But the conversations continue on Spice FM 94.4 if you're in Nairobi, Mombasa 87.9, in Kisumu 102.5, in Eldoret 96.7, Nakuru and its environs 96.0, Njeri and the region 90.9, Malindi and Kilifi it's 97.7. Also, you can catch us on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Keep it right here. And for our audience on KTN Home, thank you very much for tuning in.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Reminding you of the portal, kpa.co.ke what are you saying? Hush, hush.
Are you having a red lorry, yellow lorry moment?
I'm having one of those feast moments. Feast and sue.
Seashells.
Seashells.
Seashells on the seesaw.
Wow.
She sells seashells on the seashore.
Yes, she does, doesn't she?
Yes, she does.
Okay, so looking at what Captain Cargo can offer you, speaking of the sea, in terms of export and the documentations that you need to get through. So your advice, which you've already received from KRA after you've made the necessary payments, then are sent to your agent and you pay the charges for the port, right? And according to Captain Cargo, then your truck arrives and all your stuff is loaded, your cargo is loaded on the truck and you're issued with a position slip. This slip then now enables you to proceed for X-ray scanning just to make sure that everything is okay. And even as you see things, well, there you go. Even as you see things playing out here, it's clear that this is what is available on the portal for you to then go ahead. And Captain Cargo has been so kind in letting us know what that's all about.
www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo. CT, what do you make of what the president of the Kenya Medical Association has said? And even the challenge from Senator Sylvia Kasanga.
The senator was cut short, but the direction she was taking, one understood clearly. The chairman has just gotten in, president has just ascended to this particular position. His duty is to serve the members, and among those duties is to actually protect the members. The truth of the matter is he presented the organization as being rather toothless. Because every question that requires some action was either diverted to some government agency or to a discussion or to a look and wait as we see moment.
To a policy.
Yes. But I think also there's the underlying factor of perhaps the doctor not fully appreciating just how fortunate medical doctors are in this country if you look at the scale of people who are respected and whose views are listened to. Your doctor talking to you is a very different conversation, even if it's on a personal issues regarding them, than from someone else talking to you. If a politician came to talk to you about that same issue, the question is, who would you listen to more? Whose issue would you take more to heart? The answer is really not difficult to arrive at. This is a point of view. This is a perspective they are not leveraging a lot of things on. They can get a lot more done than they seem to want to.
But also, you know, when I listen to Senator Sylvia Kasanga and when I watch her, even during debate in the House, you know, sometimes when you really lose faith in these institutions, you see some individuals who come up and you're like,
and you say,
okay. And you actually even ask yourself, did the party really know who they were nominating? when this party was nominating.
Because they're clearly not playing these political games that others are playing.
Fire. Fire. And we hope, you know, that when you have such senators and the rest, if you're still listening to us, Senator Kasanga, this is the moment to actually unravel the real faces behind this cartel.
Yes, and this should be the norm. So that when such a case goes to the Senate, you know very well you're going to be unearthed.
Yes. You know, this is it. If it gets there, Kwisha Sisi. And a lot of action is going to be taken. So just dragging people through the mud and saying, oh, now, because some two names have been mentioned, now the next thing is we demand their resignation and that's it. That will not help us.
Doesn't cut it.
At all. Coming up to the top of the hour, remind us today's Proverb City.
A truthful person will find themselves expelled from 9 villages.
A truthful person
will find themselves expelled from 9 villages. Meaning 1 village, you go and utter your truth out. 2 out. 3 out.
What is this about Proverbs and 9? 9 lives, 9 villages. 9.
I'm not really certain. I honestly
There's something about the 9 and the Wahengas.
I really am not certain. And you're talking about, and the lives of the cat, how many are they?
9.
Oh, I thought there were 12. 9.
Yeah. Coming to the top of the hour. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's 9 o'clock.
spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
So, well, looking much better in certain parts of the city today. Coming out of traffic hour in just a short while. It shouldn't be too crazy here on out, but then we do see a little bit of traffic on Mombasa Road right around the SGR, heading then into the CBD. As you get to where the expressway is being worked on, then you see a little bit of traffic then also just around Nyayo, getting towards Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Then and after that, you should be fine. Uhuru Highway until Westlands, moving at a snail's pace, but moving all the same. Coming out of Thika Road, also not so bad. It's looking good, guys. Let us know if you jump into something that is not too pleasant. Let us know, and we'll see how we can spread the word to either get you moving or at least alert other people of what's going on. Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Nduh Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Keeping it here. This is Spice FM. And in this hour now, we continue this conversation, these cartels, and the name dropping that we saw on Friday on the floor of the Senate between the chairman and the suspended CEO of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority. I personally loved what Dr. John Manjari did. I personally loved it. You know what? From where I sit, I believe that there's a bigger problem in the Ministry of Health, and it goes beyond somebody who was appointed less than 2 years ago into this ministry. It goes beyond somebody who was appointed as the head of this ministry this year, less than 6 months ago into this ministry. It goes beyond these people. It goes beyond the PS, Susan Mochache. It goes beyond these particular individuals. It goes deeper into somebody else. There's this creature that has roots and has tentacles in every floor, every corridor of Afia House, and is able to run operations at Afia House. So when I saw Dr. Jonah Manjari on the floor and saying, you know what, I was receiving instructions, and my instructions were coming, he did not talk about the individuals, because the individuals really talks about the officers here, and this is the CS and the PS, and saying, I was getting calls from the PS. I was getting SMSs from the PS, and they were telling me, look, this is the direction we want you to take. Also, if you listen to what the chairman, Kembe Gitora, was also saying on the floor of the Senate, he was also talking about a board that has been appointed, but a board that does not really have the final say on what happens in this organization. So it points to...
And he had to wait for this moment to say this.
Yeah, of course. Now those are the other questions. The point is, here is a problem that is being unearthed.
I agree completely.
Names are being mentioned. I hope now that Mutahi Kagwe can go, and Susan Mochache, instead of saying, oh, I want the PS to come, the CEO to justify the messages that are sent to him, go to the floor of the Senate, Madam PS, and also talk about your frustrations. Say if you receive orders from elsewhere. Say if there are any individuals who come and they drop names and tell you to do this, or you leave office. Finally, this is our opportunity to fight this cartel. However, the people around the weekend have just been saying, so now that Mutahi Kagwe has been mentioned, Mutahi Kagwe should step aside. Of course, the politicians, and I see what the CS said. He said, I personally brought the prices of these items down, and this is why they are fighting me. they are fighting me. He needs to tell us who these
Who
they
they
are.
are.
This is corruption fighting back and a political witch hunt at play. I remain focused. Whoever is pulling these strings has found their voice, and the voice has now been directed towards, it went to Jonah Manjari. Jonah Manjari passed on the ball, kicked back the ball,
Hot potato.
landed on Mutahi Kagwe. Mutahi Kagwe is hot potato in the mouth, and he's trying to throw it and spit it into someone else. Who is he going to spit it to? But as he does that, now the politicians have ganged up and they're starting to say, Kagwe must go.
Two things.
Should Kagwe go, really?
Why is it so difficult to then name names? We've spoken to the president of the KMA. We've spoken to other people. We hear from Jonah Manjari who says, I took it from upstairs. Why is it so difficult to name individuals who, number one, are not doing their job or who have given instructions over certain things to be done that you know is outside of normal practices that should be laced with at least some form of integrity?
Or the external actors who make these calls.
Why is it so difficult to do that?
It's not difficult.
So what is it that is being protected? Your job? Because it looks like whether you try to protect your job by not naming names, they're going to call you out at some point anyway, right? Mutahi Kagwe told us 2 months ago that he would leave no stone unturned, and I quote, and not 1 cent of these funds would go missing.
Stolen.
That is
Not
what he
on
said.
his
So
watch.
are you
Not
s-
on his
Are you suggesting
watch.
that the stone has arrived now?
Omo, the stone has arrived, it has turned and has flipped all over again.
Okay.
Yeah? So then, this thing that you're saying, because he quotes so many times, but they. So you know who this person is. It's not like you're feeling in the dark and there's some amorphous creature that is speaking and whispering in your ear, and then when you turn on the light, this
Yep.
thing disappears.
Yep.
You know who it is. It's an individual, he, she, whomever. You know, living, breathing human being.
What's that creature called?
I don't know what it is, but I know it.
The one whom the light chases away.
When you switch on the light, it goes away.
He goes,
In every community has them.
No, you know it, isn't it?
And
you
from
know what
childhood,
I'm
you're
talking about.
told.
Yeah,
Among the Luo, it's called Koko,
that one.
spelled K-O-K-O.
Now that's
And
not
it's only
what,
found in the dark.
in the dark.
Yes.
Koko.
Koko.
That's not what we're dealing
And you don't
with.
see it.
You never
don't
see it.
But that's not what
But
we're
it's a
dealing.
horrible creature.
That's not the
scary
one
stuff.
we're dealing with at the Ministry of Health. This one, the Ministry of Health, living, breathing, heart beating, blood thumping individual. You know, or many. You know who they are. Why is it so difficult? His name is Eric Latiff.
No, it's
His name is Siti Muga. His name is Nduh
it's a
Okoh.
cultural requirement.
Why is it
That's-
so hard?
That,
What is it that,
that
you're
you say
it's
there's
a
a
cultural
Koko.
requirement. No. You don't mention it by name. No.
You don't say Coco.
You never say.
Yeah.
No, these fearsome things you don't mention by name. No, but it seems to be an acquired cultural habit to be vague. Just think and look back at any of our serious issues. They are predominated by vagueness. Just you're waiting, okay, say it. Say it. And that's why when someone says it, remember we had a guest earlier on, Mheshimiwa Alice Wahome.
Yeah.
She was very direct about her criticism of the president.
She said,
Direct. I have rarely had anybody that direct. Clearly, she was upset. And she figured, surely,
what am I
if
gonna
Come
lose?
and buy.
yes. And maybe she was expelled from Village 1.
But she's on
Village
2.
2 or
She's
3
on
now.
2 or 3 now, yes. But she spoke her mind. It is rare. That is the whole point.
And guess what? She's still alive.
Of course she is. Other times when it appears that people are being honest, it is absolutely and patently clear that they have an axe to grind. So whatever they're saying is already tainted. You're figuring,
Forget it.
no.
Or that there's something to hide.
Yes.
Or
yes.
that there's something to hide. So I really do have a problem, a real problem with, we know the truth and those people are the ones who don't want us to do one to the other. But then you never really tell us who they are.
No, but also...
And it seems as if your existence on a daily basis is being plagued by these individuals who are not allowing you to do your job and who are tainting your image by the thing that they continue to
So
do.
ask.
But you seem to be okay with it
But ask,
and not name them.
ask why. Why? Because it isn't as though when this issue came up is when these names suddenly came with them.
Exactly.
No?
No, they've been
It's
there.
not like a ship which arrived with the containers.
You
No.
know who they... Oh,
This thing-
or in this
The
case,
ocean.
didn't arrive.
This is
Or in
the
this
ocean.
case, didn't
Yes.
arrive.
So the truth of the matter is, ask yourself, forget even just the political divide. Whenever you have issues, For the longest time, I remember, they'd be even in the places I've worked in, getting someone to actually state and say it was so and so. Hey.
Go move.
It's a teeth pulling exercise. When they've now, for instance, lost their jobs, then
Then they want to talk.
They are suddenly very vocal. So you ask, what is it about this culture? Why are people that way inclined?
Without actually realizing that, you know what? If you did speak up, would probably be direct access to you keeping your job.
Actually, the experience is the opposite.
If you are a whistleblower, then you lose your job or
yes,
you're thrown out
you
of
go.
the circus.
The opposite,
You're thrown out
yes.
of the circus, right?
Not thrown out is mild. You are harassed and hounded.
And you wear a scarlet letter then for the rest of your existence.
That's it.
okay.
We have people who've been whistleblowers who've died as a result of just the mistreatment that they received, and they were not lying.
Okay, but this is my thing. If you're going to say that, if we're asking the question now, should the CS for Health resign or not, based on these now allegations that are being made? All right, he has previously said that there will be no cent that will be lost under his watch. There will be no stone that will be uncovered. Then if truly that is his position and he's ready to do everything that he can and will to make sure that that doesn't happen, then don't resign. But if you're not going to open your mouth, if you're
Step
not
aside.
going to name who these individuals are, move.
No, but is he even able to do the things he said he could do? That is the question I want to ask.
He
Go
overpromised.
Yes.
He was
is
basically-
I mean, is he actually, in all honesty, able to do these things?
Look, we're talking about something.
So what are you doubting? Are you doubting his willingness?
No. His ability.
I don't
His
have a problem with his
ability.
willingness.
It's a
Even his capacity. No, capacity, just the wherewithal.
capability.
Yes. There are things you are not able to do, even if you want to.
Because
Let me explain. You know, we've discussed for a long time how it is that we are so duplicitous as Kenyans. On the one hand, we say this, but given quietly, we do this and so forth. This is where it comes to a head. And there's that quiet conspiracy that we as Kenyans have agreed that you're always negotiating just in case and say, I could have mentioned you, but I didn't mention you. Okay? So now, you're always leaving room for some other discussion to take place. And what we end up doing is we never make serious stands on anything. Are you telling me, for instance, that the Senate cannot make a stand on this issue of the budget? They can. Are we saying that Parliament cannot, the National Assembly cannot decide on that two-thirds general rule? They can. But they know why. We also understand why. But it is, that's why I call it culture. It's our culture. There are things we just skirt around. We all skirt around. Now, what Mheshimiwa Kagwe did was what someone in his position is supposed to do. You are
Say.
supposed to come and say tough things.
spit fire.
Say, it's what you expected. And he was doing well. And in this very same studio, he said, Mzee, this one, be a bit careful. This particular ministry
They will eat you.
has caused harm to many people. Now, it appears like it has come to harm him.
So soon, man.
Yes, it has come to harm him, but he came in at a time when there were too many balls in the air and all of them were explosive.
Yeah.
Look, let's look at the things. Let's just look at that week of March 8th. March 8th was a Friday. March 13th was a Friday. And that meant that the 6th of March was a Friday. 7th, 8th, 9th of March. This man was overseeing World Congress on something totally different. I had a conversation with him that day. And he was, excited about his new role. He was happy because not long before that is when he had been appointed, right? And was talking about malaria and other, not too difficult subjects, all right? Less than 5 days later, enter COVID. And things went crazy almost immediately. Spoke to him the next Monday, literally 7 days after, and it was sounding like a totally different man. 1 week has that effect.
I haven't
Especially when you
slept.
my friend, when you throw in so many things things that you may have said when circumstances were different could very easily change when you throw some more balls into the air.
And then you know what happens? The players who normally, supposedly, this is my imagination at play here, looking at ministries and the budgetary allocation and said, which ministry has huge budgetary allocations and which ones are under the national government? Because the devolved ones, those ones in true Kenyan style have been left with the governors and their cronies to eat.
To deal.
To eat.
To eat.
Now, but yes, that's a Kenyan conversation.
Got it.
But now these ones which are at the national level, okay? It's like there's a pecking order. The orders beyond this amount, we know so and so, and are the ones who eat.
Yeah.
These ones are the ones who... Now, if you are appointed and you have an idea of what happens, this man has been a minister before.
Yes, he has.
Okay? But not in the Ministry of Health. Then you arrive at the Ministry of Health, which has had more scandals than you can actually think or imagine. And these are the ones we know of.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Now, suddenly COVID happens and there is money at play. Money which is just outside the normal budgetary allocations, money at play. Can you see the frenzy of what would happen with that scenario that I just painted? You're the minister, you're going to be thrown off balance completely. Completely off balance. Now, what makes his situation even trickier? If you are to believe everything that you see or some of the things you read in social media, the papers, and some of the names and individuals being mentioned are related to the president, how on earth do you handle such things?
Oh, yes. How? Because you can't even go and ask the president, should I deal with so-and-so?
Where do you start?
You cannot.
Even if it's a malicious person who's decided, let's just throw this thing in the air and see how it works.
They thought they were going to handle us.
Yes. How on earth, because somebody could just mention names to sort of like throw the cat among the pigeons.
Yes.
Let there be a flurry of feathers everywhere, so you're not really sure which way to move. But if you're the minister and you're put in such a position, what on earth are you going to do?
Oh, sorry for Mutahi Kagwe. 16 minutes after 9. This is a situation room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. So we are asking the questions this morning. So who are these people who are fighting Mutahi Kagwe? Who are these people that he says it is corruption fighting back, political witch hunted play? I remain focused. There are those that have been demanding that Mutahi Kagwe steps aside this weekend because he's been named by the CEO of KEMSA on the floor of the Senate. Well, the CEO of KEMSA has not produced any evidence yet, but the conversation is already out there. Mutahi Kagwe, step aside. Should Mutahi Kagwe step aside? 1. 2, should Mutahi Kagwe now just come out and go to the floor of the Senate and say, these are the individuals that have been frustrating me at the Ministry of Health. These are the individuals who run cartels in that ministry. These are the owners of the evil network in that ministry. Should he do that? Or should he just step aside and say, you know what, this one, let me just go, run my PR company and my other businesses. I was okay before that. Wait for 2022, I ran for Senate again or Governor of Njeri. Leave this thing alone. 0719 012 600.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Warming up to 18 degrees in Nairobi. Mostly sunny conditions throughout today. We'll go to a high of 26 and lows of 12. Nakuru is partly cloudy at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 12 with a chance of a shower later in the afternoon. It's going to be bright and sunny in Njeri all through, highs of 24 and lows of 12, no matter who's running for governor or senator. And in Eldoret, it's mostly cloudy at 15, highs of 19 and lows of 11 with thunderstorms forecasted for later. It's going to be a rainy afternoon in Kisumu. It's mostly sunny at the moment at 21 and it'll go to highs of 26. Kakamega is mostly sunny at 19 degrees, highs of 24 and lows of 14 with showers expected later. It's going to be a wet afternoon in Mombasa as well, currently mostly sunny at 26. Malindi is mostly sunny as well at 27. It'll go to a high of just 28 and lows of 24, but the rain will come in to cool things down just a little bit. It's partly cloudy in Kampala at 21 degrees, highs of 25 and lows of 18. And in Dar es Salaam, it's partly cloudy as well, highs of 26. The fog seems to have dissipated, highs of 30 and lows of 21. Warming up ever so slightly in Joburg at 8 degrees now. It'll go to a high of 18 and lows of 7. Clear skies in Lagos at 25. It is the rainy season though, so the rains will make a check-in later, highs of 28 and lows of 23. It's partly cloudy in Paris, highs of 21 and lows of 11, and also a chance of thunderstorms there later. Clear skies in London at 9, highs of 18 and lows of 8. And finally in New York, it's now Monday morning, 26 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions, highs of 28 and lows of 21.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
For many years, one of the former PSs in the Ministry of Health in the Kibaki administration, Professor James Ole Kiapi, has come here and has told us, look, that place, no jokes. No jokes. You are doing this and then you thought you approved for this to happen. You come and realize later that what actually happened is completely different from what you thought was happening.
You know, you asked the question, should Mutai Kagwe resign? What is the threshold for recognition? Just because someone has mentioned your name. What is your threshold for resignation? Just because you happen to be minister in that particular ministry?
Yes.
No.
The threshold for resignation, because funds have been stolen under your watch. When you came and promised not a shilling.
If he has set in place mechanisms to unearth it, we're assuming that he knows everything that happened in that ministry. I dare say he doesn't.
He said it himself.
No minister does.
He said himself.
It's okay.
He doesn't need to know everything and everybody, but he's
you
aware
are the
of
head of
something
that
that's going on.
organization.
And he has already confirmed that there are those who are already fighting back. He has said them, they, them. Those are the adverbs that he has used, rather pronouns that he has used.
It's
Them,
not Coco that's
they.
fighting.
It's
He
not Coco.
knows.
It's somebody he knows and he has seen. This one, he doesn't need to switch off the light or switch it on. It's there. Plain sight. And he has said the same. They, them, fighting back. So he knows who they are.
Let the man fight it and let's see how he's going to fight
Look
it.
at other nations. Sometimes a whiff. They just smell like the smoke from far. Somebody has said,
Yes,
thank
yes,
you. I'm not doing it again.
Those people don't have the Kenyan Ministry of Health. That's why. Give them the Kenyan Ministry of Health and see how they manage
They'll
it.
stay.
Uh,
They'll stay. They won't
let
resign.
them see. They'd take one look and just move out of politics completely.
Exactly.
Maybe enter the church.
Exactly. So should it be that thing where you get in and you realize, oh my God, the rot is actually worse than I thought. So then rather than sit here and give Kenyans promises and say, you know what, I'm going to unearth this thing, or under my watch, not a single cent will be stolen. Rather than say things like that, when you realize this thing, a long story, you'd rather even say, you know what, thank you, let me go and do the one that I can do. But you people, this one, I cannot.
Nduh, let me speak Nigerian also. Omo, just listen.
Now, wow.
When a dragon slayer is informed that he or she's required to only slay one dragon, and then you arrive there and find it's an entire clan.
And their eggs about to hatch.
Yes, and this one you realize when you've been singed, because dragons are supposed to be fire producing. Let the dragon slayer have time to figure out. The dragon slayer has not had time to even figure
Dragon
out.
Slayer has already said, even when he has gone and seen the pregnant dragon, the one that has just laid the eggs, the other one that are mating
He
now,
came out and
populating,
said,
he already came
"These
out and
ones."
said, these ones, I will remove all of them. Bah! And he saw them.
Actually, those are the ones he saw.
He saw them.
Those are the
And he was
ones
still
he saw.
talking. He
No,
was still
those
talking.
are the ones he saw.
Even
He had not
today.
seen the entire clan.
Even today,
Look.
as he was still seeing
Nduh.
all of them, he even said, he said it again and said,
Nduh.
I am not going to allow this to happen.
Of course, he wasn't going to allow. Remember, this is not one of these situations where his sight deceived him. No. What he saw, he saw. He just didn't see all of it. Now, he's seeing all of it. Now. So now he's in a position to make that statement again and said, let's revise that earlier statement.
Let's remove this unturned thing we were talking about. But then do you know what he said?
Yeah,
Siti?
let's start with the stone
This
first.
stone is too big.
He said, this is corruption fighting back and a political witch hunt at play. I remain focused. Remain focused on what? That initial thing that he had said, whereby, Omo, is not me. I will not allow any money get stolen while I'm here.
They
Who
don't know
told
me.
you? They basically said,
Look.
they don't know me.
Do you know why fairy tales exist?
He even said, wait now, let me finish, Siti. He even said, it pleases me that you now have a deeper, as if you didn't know before, a deeper understanding of why I am so resolute about transforming the sector. Him wants to transform this sector with these pregnant, egg-laying, copulating dragons that you're talking about. Still saying that he's going to slay them.
Yes, I have accepted. I am simply telling you this, Nduh. These perilous jobs, you very rarely know just how perilous it is until the peril doesn't stare at you in the face. When it bites you in the rear, then you're like, goodness gracious me. You mean this is how perilous this thing actually is?
So
Even him, believe me, he had an idea of what probably happens there, like anyone would. When you get there, you still think you have an idea. You issue statements, and remember the people telling you, yes, Mkubwa, we've done this, we've done, everything is in place. And
Meanwhile, they're the ones
then you
that-
come out and make more statements. And in fact, let's go and show you what we've done. You're shown a little bit of what you've done, all right? And then again, what you've done. Then this thing which you're not shown comes out. Teeth bared. And you're bitten. They say, goodness gracious, where did this one come from?
okay, that place he has not reached it.
Oh, he has reached.
He
This
hasn't
one.
been bitten yet.
Has not been bitten, OCT. The way he's
you're-
talking.
My friend, let me tell
This
you.
is not talking like a man who's been bitten.
Yeah, he's resolute to fight this.
He's just
Are
hearing
you-
the
are you-
grumbling.
are
Now
you-
he's
No,
happy
he's
because
been
the rest
bitten.
of
He's been
no.
bitten.
According to him, he's happy that the rest of you Kenyans have now seen what's really going on at the Ministry of Health, like you didn't know before. Now,
No, you didn't
with
know.
the revelation,
You can't
you
know.
people, you outside didn't know. Now the revelation of all these things that have been going on now segues into your vision in terms of what is really going on there. Now you can understand why I'm resolute. I remain focused. He has not been bitten.
No, he has.
The first bite city, when DCI or ESCC officers summon him. Bite.
Allow me to introduce a concept that is true in such situations. It's called shock. When you're shocked,
You can say all manner of things.
You say everything.
this one I cannot respond with one word. Where? Look, this isn't something light, okay? Because it's your reputation is at stake. Your job is at stake. And why? It's because of the manner in which this thing has just sort of like come in and it's engulfing you. Now, the focus of the entire country, by the time you have headline status, my friend, it isn't a small thing. And if it's headline, it is not going to go away tomorrow or the day after. And more things will keep coming up and up. And the real battle is not even this. The real battle, as I said earlier on, is what has taken place before you ever even thought of becoming a minister in that ministry. The history of that ministry is coming and is being lumped on your head.
Everything.
In fact, let me use the word pop on your head.
The way it has been lumped on people before him.
This one is worse because before there was no COVID.
There was no COVID. Now, with all that had gone wrong, from the mess to previous scandals, from NHIF to I don't even know what, and then you put COVID on top of this. COVID without the scandal, by the way, was just a whole other thing that he had to deal with, right? Then now there was COVID, the pandemic, and then now add COVID, the corruption, to all of this.
But guys, I think the methodology then of this very honest dragon slayer are what we should be questioning. Because this dragon slayer, if he has a clear picture so far of at least the father and the mother and the firstborn of the dragons, and he knows the grandfather is somewhere hiding, the uncles are somewhere in the back, just come out and say the father and mother are so and so.
Simple.
What
And
if
start saying this is the shape of the dragon. In fact, we were thinking
what
that
it
this
looks like.
dragon looks. This is describe to us how it looks like.
Thank you.
Then tell us. I'm gonna go back now. What what I need, guys, is I need a stronger reinforcement. I need an iron. Tell us what you need. Then we stand behind it. But if you just continue saying, come on, this is a dragon making noise, then we just think
Even you're there with them,
you've been
copulating
given
with
meat.
the dragon.
essentially what you're saying is that you're a dragon also?
Or they
Yes.
gave you a wife. Come on, man. Seriously, it shouldn't be so difficult to say, this is actually what I'm facing. Or you want to fight it by yourself and come out the hero.
No.
Oh, it won't work.
No, that's why I mentioned the word shock. You can come in and you actually think you have a handle on it, and then it dawns on you, you actually don't.
You're a crew in this thing.
Yes, you are. That is a very good word.
Sorry, what?
Krutu is the
Recruit.
Kenyanization of the word recruit. And it was referenced to in the army, people who were recruited were called Krutus.
You couldn't just say recruit.
We did.
See, that's it.
What did you hear?
9:30. The Situation Room is Kenya's biggest conversation. 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Should Mutahi Kagwe step aside and pave way for investigations into this? Or should he just come out and name the people that he thinks are behind the cartels in Afi House. Good morning. Let's take a look at traffic. Well, we'll take your calls right after this.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Traffic.
So yes, for Monday morning, actually doing pleasantly well, guys. Where there was bumper to bumper to bumper traffic, is not so much right now. Looking pretty good. So we know that police officers were caught unaware by their bosses, and we know this happened on Gong Road today. So now you can move along and stop causing traffic. That drama is over, so we can reduce the traffic that is on Gong Road. Apart from that, it looks pretty good. Spice FM KE through the day. In case you see something that we should know about traffic-wise, we don't expect levels to pick up until the evening. Be safe wherever you are.
Spice FM, Nakuru. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Yes.
What is that threshold?
Actually, the reason why I asked about the threshold, the reason I mentioned the threshold was because I was thinking of the Treasury when the CS and his principal secretary were asked to leave. I noted that that particular ministry doesn't have a KEMSA equivalent.
They don't.
No. They actually don't have an NHIF equivalent. The reason is because the money comes to them. It is them who decide
Where it goes.
And there was evidence of authorization by the CS. There were decisions that only those two top people could have made. This is not the situation that we have here. And when you have arms within, or departments or parastatals within that same ministry, and who have a board, the truth of the matter is that there are decisions that actually are made by those people. You can talk about it being influenced, but it exists. So early days yet, accusations have been made. We hear the direction this thing is taking. But if we were to follow what the MPs, the members of parliament of the Okoh House are saying, then I think I would ask them to drink the water that they're preaching. They should then all resign also. Because if we look at the things that they are said to have done, and which is their purview, no one else's, and they haven't done, they have had time to sort out this one simple thing of the gender. One! Now I'm Ishindwa. So let other matters come to the fore. The threshold is there is evidence that this person was culpable. Right now, his culpability lies in the accusation.
So for you, threshold is evidence.
My friend, irrefutable. It has to be there.
A threshold,
And then
threshold that you
yes,
that you did something.
not just me. It's not me.
Evidence.
No, no.
So
It's
should
not
there
me.
be
It's not me.
evidence?
It's not I, Eric. It is evidence that investigative bodies can tell you this is the evidence we've had. Now, at that point, surely.
Should there be evidence that there was misappropriation or that there was loss?
Every accusation from loss, accusation, forcing the hand, insist, for all that. The debate is still going on as to who said what. And really, if it's at the level of talking, I would expect that the PS talks to such people. I would expect the minister talks. So they were talking, and I would expect them to even discuss these matters that we are now, which are at the center of the discussion. I would expect them to talk. But what part of that talk constitutes wrongdoing? That has to come to the fore.
But how about this? How about overall responsibility?
As the custodian of this,
As a custodian of this particular office,
let me introduce.
If you talk about now those things that you're saying, yes, the board can take that responsibility and say right out. The CEO can take that and say out. Who appoints the board?
Why-
The board is appointed by the minister.
I agree, but why are we quick to believe what the board is saying? Why can they also not just be passing the buck?
No, not about saying. Are we saying that we are too quick to believe that there was loss of COVID-19
No,
funds?
we're not saying that.
So
What
as long
was-
as there is that
That's enough to say.
there was loss of COVID-19 funds
Yes.
under your watch,
Yes.
that is enough. That is threshold.
No, for me it isn't. It isn't threshold. It isn't threshold. Right now, Kenya Medical Research Institute has had issues with actually churning out the number of tests that it should do.
Yeah.
There was the issue of reagents, there's the issue of the whatever, the wherewithal that is required to carry out these things. They are the body that could actually perform these things on the largest scale in the country. That hasn't been happening. We don't hear that story anymore. We don't even know whether what was being waited for actually arrived. We don't know.
Imagine.
No, we don't know. So now, because KEMRI is not able to meet the obligation that it has, so should the director of KEMRI resign? The answer is no. Because why? I can explain mitigating circumstances. They are beyond his reach. Now, we are assuming that the minister doesn't have things which are beyond them. They do. There are things which are beyond them. And that's what we are talking about here. These things which are beyond the minister.
Right, but with the words from the same minister, he said those things that you're talking about amount to the stones that he talked about, where he said none of them would be left unturned.
That was one.
Oh no, these are many stones, okay? And not a shilling, but now we're talking about billions. Not a shilling would have been lost under his watch. He took public responsibility for some of these things. He took public responsibility and said, look, under my watch, these things will not happen. Under my watch, no stone will be left unturned. Under my watch, etc., etc., etc. So now something has come about whereby scrutiny is being applied under what? Your watch. So it is under that same watch that you'll be held up against and said, look, under your watch, it seems that certain things happened. So now, because of that, it's grounds for you to say, okay,
Moral
something went
responsibility.
wrong.
I actually agree with you, but in addition to that moral responsibility should include him re-strategizing, gathering his troops, and fighting back. That is what I think he should also add to that strategy that we're talking. Because in all honesty, this thing hit the headlines as in it came to the fore last week. We are now this week. I'm not saying it should take a month before anything happens, but I'm simply saying that I would not recommend the resignation of the minister.
What hit the headlines last week?
Oh, no, this matter of
The
COVID
loss.
No, not the loss. The headlines was KEMSA. The headlines was then the board.
And you see, that's where now you're going wrong, City.
Why am I going wrong?
Because you're taking just the issue of KEMSA and
Actually-
the mentioning,
No, I'm
the
not,
mentioning of the CS's name as the issue.
Eric.
No, the issue. Remember the first time we talked about.
Eric, I'm talking about the catalyst. The issues in this ministry have for the longest time had one commonality. They're always unsolved. Okay? And all those fellows who didn't solve those issues are not here. Some were transferred, some left, some did whatever. And I'm saying they've come up. There's all these things happening. We are determining Kagwe's guilt even before.
We are not determining his guilt.
It's not matter whether he's guilty or innocent.
We are determining his responsibility.
In this country,
He is responsible.
in this
From the
country,
moment Jack Ma's donations left China and they went to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and they were being distributed across Africa, and they landed at JKIA, and then they did not end up where they were supposed to go, responsibility number one. From the moment Chinese government donated to the Kenyan embassy in Beijing, Kenyan embassy in Beijing shipped them to JKIA, they disappeared, responsibility again. From the moment you look at how much money has been given towards the fight against COVID-19, and then there are questions that have emerged on how the money has been used. Those are responsibilities. And for as long as you can not come and say, okay, yeah, I take responsibility for this, you just come and say, I take responsibility for this, and this is what I have established, this is what happened. As long as you don't do that, then it means that you have questions to answer. Please step aside and answer those questions. Ukiwa pale nje, tutakuita.
And then even when you're giving this explanation, you say it is them. There's a they, there's a them, but there's still the refusal to name who these individuals are. You're not taking that responsibility and saying, nobody's saying you're guilty. Nobody's saying that you put your hand in the cookie jar and actually took these funds and lined your pockets with them. But the responsibility of office lays squarely in your lap. Now, if you're going to say that here I am within this office and I am naming Nduh, I am naming Eric, or at least I'm coming to have a conversation with you about what may or may not have been lost, and I am making that public, as publicly as the statement that I made when I told everybody that I am taking responsibility, then that's different. By all means, stay there and continue fighting. But you're going to continue with this maybe lily-livered attitude towards maybe I know and maybe I don't know. No. Not be so we did do them.
That one.
Well,
Not be said.
do you know? If I were to comment on what Nduh has just said, I can only express it in Kiswahili. Ameongea kikwao.
No.
Anaongea kikwao.
Yes, whenever an African does that, they're overwhelmed.
Bas.
Yeah, this one.
That's just the end. It's
No, mother tongue just comes in.
gone beyond.
No. My position, I think, on this particular matter has been made clear. The minister has spoken. Let us see what he then does. So he has said, let's see if he follows it by action. That's what I'm talking about, the strategy. He has said, by your words, I will. Let's see that.
He said this 2 months ago.
Oh,
CT.
yes, but I'm saying, he has said, let's see. This is an
How long?
opportunity-
How long should we give him?
This is an opportunity for the doing.
When do we start? When do we start seeing the results of his
fruits of
doing?
this
No, this week is good enough.
Okay, so he said this 2 months ago.
Yes.
We still want to expect that to happen this week. Why not? Why not?
2 months ago, we didn't have the situation that we now have. Did
2
we?
months ago, we had a different situation.
Precisely. Now,
And this was about the spending of a billion shillings to buy mandazis for meetings instead of fighting
Eric,
COVID.
you know,
He said what?
You really
I
must
am
be
going to
comprehensive
announce.
about these things. You just can't mention the mandazis and leave out the samosas.
And the samosas.
To be democratic in this pastry
Surely.
government.
No, you can't. And
There's
those-
about to be hiring ambulances and buying ambulances.
And
There's-
printing paper.
And printing paper. And I don't know, giving how much money credit to medical workers across the country, how many thousands of them. All that. What did he say? I am going to give answers. Susan Mochache went to the National Assembly with one budget. She said, oh, no. Sorry, sure you.
Bring it back.
I'll bring you the right one. Took it.
Never came back.
CS
Until they even told us
Mutaika,
they
what did he
didn't spend
say?
any money.
I am going to find out the actual position. That was
Let
a long
me-
time ago.
Let me read what one of our listeners has actually just sent and told me, okay?
Uh-huh.
With reference to what we're discussing. A man enters a moving bus and is making his way to the driver's seat in a crowded bus. Is he to blame for making his way to the driver's seat because it's crowded?
Say that again.
A man enters a crowded bus.
Right.
Bus, okay, but he wants to move towards the driver's seat because there's an exit. Okay. Now, are we to blame his process of movement on the crowd, or on the bus, or on the driver? Who would we blame here? But he's making his way. But
So you're saying eventually he'll get to the driver's seat.
I'm saying we know where he's headed, and we will know when he gets there,
And you know the bus is crowded.
and we know the bus is crowded.
All right. Let's not talk about the man who's just an ordinary passenger. Let's talk about the driver. Is the driver responsible for this bus being crowded? Mutai Kagwe is not an ordinary passenger who's just boarded this vehicle.
He's the driver.
Does
Wanna
the-
This
listener.
particular
When
bus.
you board a
This
bus,
is-
Eric, when you board a bus, does the bus know who you are?
Yeah, and Mutai Kagwe is not a passenger. Mutai Kagwe is a driver.
Or so you're referring to him as the driver? now?
Yes.
He's the one who's taking this bus somewhere. Supposedly.
Why is this
If you
simple
enter a
analogy
bus-
lost on you? Why don't you bring your own analogy? This is the problem with me. I read an analogy, then you guys now bring your own analogy. Hiya.
So our analogy is a
Same
driver.
bus?
A driver finds his bus at the bus stop. It's ready to depart, gets onto the bus, starts driving the bus. It's crowded. Is he to blame for driving a crowded bus?
All right, that's yours. Nduh, your analogy.
A man gets into a bus and starts driving. Realize that there's a problem with this engine, that they put sugar in the fuel tank. Should he stop and try to fix the vehicle, or should he keeps moving?
Is he to blame for
blame
continuing to
for
drive?
Continuing to drive where there's sugar in the fuel tank.
tell the listener a change. Can you amend?
No, the listener is
Can you
listening.
amend this analogy?
The listener, I'm sure, is listening because this analogy.
Give us a different
some
analogy
different
that
ingredients.
we can deal with.
Here, I think we have a situation where a truthful man is on the sixth village. 3 more to go.
Telling you. This one,
Hey, whoa.
especially since you publicly took responsibility for everything that happens there, maybe you would have said the strategy would have been different if he didn't speak out.
Yeah.
If he didn't say it's my responsibility, maybe you would have
He'd have
assumed that
he'd
it
have
was.
pulled a Dr. Mailu.
Yeah.
But
You know,
Said,
I tried
didn't know.
asking.
I tried asking questions. Nobody told me anything.
Our listener
so-
has responded and said the driver is actually corruption, and the minister will never reach that seat.
Yeah, so what should he do?
So should he get off the bus or
He's
not try
already
to
on-
get to the
he's
front?
already on the bus.
He's
The bus
already
is
on
moving.
the bus. It's moving. We are going.
He's not near the door. So what should this driver? What
Should he
should this
stand there
man
and
do?
watch it happen? Should he try and get out the window?
Scream.
Try to get to
Apart
the.
from being a talk show host, who told you I was a prophet?
Time for another break, and time for us again to talk about this portal by the Kenya Ports Authority, kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO.
So today we're looking at documents for export of your cargo out of the country and what Captain Cargo promises in terms of a seamless operation when it comes to this. And now you see that your proceeds to KPA, your truck proceeds to the KPA stacking area and the export cargo is offloaded and then it gets onto the ship and the ship sails from the port. Having all your documentation in order, that's the promise that you receive a seamless operation and you can follow on the portal Captain Cargo how this should happen. www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So as we were going to
Mornings
break, the one
done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
600, that's 0719-012-600. Should Mutahi Kagwe take moral culpability right now and say, you know what, this thing, it runs deeper than you people think, and therefore I'm stepping aside? Or should he say he's fighting and stay on, fight another day? 0719-012-600. Just call in. So the analogy again is the corruption is driving the bus, and it's
Corruption is the driver.
and it's overloaded.
But this isn't one of these newfangled vehicles that can drive itself. No, the driver here is the
Is the corruption. So corruption is driving the bus.
And the
and who are the
driver is trying
passengers?
to get to the seat.
The rest of us, plus the minister who's just
Just boarded.
he's just boarded,
And he's trying to get to the seat.
and he's found other people in there
Okay.
in this corruption-driven bus.
And he's trying to head towards the corruption,
To
which
the
is
driver.
the driver. I see.
See the analogy?
Right. Right. Okay. Whatever, man. I just don't understand. So
By the way,
so what is supposed to happen to this driver?
actually, I like your honesty, Eric. It's important in such matters to admit when you have a certain failing or a weakness.
Completely lost. Yeah.
It's a good-
So after all that.
It's a good
So
sign.
how do you connect that to what's happening?
It's a good sign. In fact, what we can do,
Let's see if Zachary understands it. But Zachary, good morning. Zachary.
Hey, hi.
Hi. good
Hi,
morning.
Zachary.
Hi.
Can everyone hear me?
We
We can all hear you.
Oh, okay. Now it's been since I talked to you.
Are you well?
I'm well, although I lost my baby.
Hey, we're very sorry to hear that, Zachary.
Paul is son.
Sure, but you know this, the way we are told that we plant wild seeds, yeah? It's one of those, yeah? But it's still my biological child, yeah?
I'm very sorry to hear that. We are all very sorry to
Paul
hear
is
that,
son.
Zachary.
Oh, thank you. Now, let me start with the proverb, yeah? you posed why is 9 always used in the other African proverbs, yeah?
Yep.
9 borders 10.
Yeah.
And 10 is seen as a full number or a whole number. There's fullness, there is life in 10, yeah? So 9 is always used to show that you still have got another one step, maybe a last step, yeah? To get to a full life, So I take it that it is used to encourage one to go on, move on. There is still another step,
There's
yeah?
still one more.
Yeah. Now,
So when you say
coming
9
to the
lives, it
COVID
means that you don't have all 10.
Sure. But you are still encouraged to move, try hard. Wake up and stand up and try to move to make another step, yeah?
All right.
I guess that is the meaning, because even in Kikuyu you have got such references, yeah? Now, coming to the COVID issue, the problem with us Kenyans is that everyone has known that we are very much forgetful, yeah? And I want to remind you people that when the COVID issue came, we added another phrase or vocabulary, or I don't know how you can call it, at your own cost, yeah? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Now, if Mwalimu was told that, if you go there and you get the COVID and you get this disease, you are going to cater it, you go to look at it at your own cost, yeah? And yet the government was collecting more money and the fundraising. Now, there is this money that the government is asking, yeah? Or raising, yeah? But then Mwalimu Adro there, I'm using him as an example because he is there, he is there, yeah?
Is there
Or even me. And I'm told that the more if you go there and you get COVID, you get it at your own cost. Now, what happens to the other money that was being raised by my government? it cannot, it cannot be thrown into a vacuum and stay there. Somebody has to come and remember that, I needed what we call a prime protect somewhere, and therefore I let me take this money because Mwalimu or Zachary has taken care of his disease, yeah? Therefore, I don't know why we are making this noise. And I remember also, Mr. Eric, that when this disease came, yeah, there are some people who are crying more than they believed, yeah? I don't expect me to die, and then Mwalimu or Eric comes to my family to, mourn with my people, and he seems to be crying more than them, yeah? So the lectures that you are getting, the CG violence, the police violence that we witnessed, it was headed to something sinister.
So bottom line, Zachary, what are you saying? With reference to Mutahi Kagwe,
yeah,
and the call for his resignation?
Mutahi Kagwe should not resign.
Okay.
And I'm not defending him because he is from my tribe, yeah? But this is let us remind ourselves that this is the way things go in Kenya, okay?
Okay. So this is just Kenya.
This is Kenya.
Tukubali yaishe.
Tukubali yaishe na tuendelee.
Thank you, Zachary.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Kubali yaishe. This is Kenya. I mean, this is Africa. This is how things go anyway. So what's the problem? How should we be complaining,
The thing is, I understand the need to hold people accountable. And I also understand the role of accountability in decision-making process, especially if you're at the very peak of it. I do. But I also understand when a story is developing, there are issues that have happened, and many of them have crowded all at once. This is not a usual, this is what you call a normal situation. There's nothing normal about it. Nothing normal about it. And because there's nothing normal about it, even the manner in which we manage it cannot possibly be normal. Because if we manage it normally, then
we continue to treat us
abnormally.
John, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you guys?
We're
Fine, thank you.
Yes, very fine. Now you have an interesting. Mutahi should not resign.
Oh, we lost him. Call back, John. Christian, good morning.
Good morning, Latiff.
Yes, how are you, Christian?
Fine, thank you. Now, this whole COVID thing, yeah. I think there's no point for Mutai to resign. What needs to happen is the buck stops with the president. He's the one who can stop this thing. He can dismantle the cartels in one day. So this whole story of telling us, oh, CEO is Majanja who and all that, those are, the buck stops with the president. He has the government machinery, he has the muscle, he can move in and clear those cartels.
So as a man at the helm of the health ministry,
Yes.
if you see that your boss is not taking action, what should you do?
You're talking now as president?
Now I'm talking as Mutahi Kagwe.
Yes.
If the president does not take any action, what should Mutahi Kagwe do?
Then he should just resign in the event of that. If he tells the president, this is what is going on, this is what I'm facing, and I cannot solve this, I need your help, and you can assist me,
Yep.
then he should just, then he can't do his job.
All
But
right.
there's too much self-preservation in this country where people want to hold on to their jobs and not do the right thing.
There you go.
Because, I mean, Majanja, I don't know if that's the name of the CEO.
Manjari.
He's talking
Manjari.
about Manjari, yeah?
Yeah.
He's talking
Majanja
about,
is a
I
High Court
received-
judge.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Manjari is talking about, I received instructions from Mutai Kagwe or whoever, or PS
PS.
Mutache. But is that your job? Are you supposed to take instructions in regards to procurement from the minister? If not, then you're not doing your job.
Right.
You know, there's a little
You're contradicting.
there's a little
When you're
conundrum
doing your
here.
own thing.
That ministry determines who is on the board of that particular entity, and it is that board who determines who is employed as CEO.
That ministry is your boss.
Yeah, fair enough. But what I'm trying to say is, who is in charge of procurement? Is it the minister? Is it the PS?
This is really the debate
Yeah.
now, isn't
This is where the conundrum comes in.
Yeah. So if your job is it's your responsibility to oversee that procurement. Don't shift blame and say, oh, I received instructions from, because when it gets to court, you're gonna be crucified for what you did.
Yeah. True.
You're not gonna say, oh, I received a call. You'll be asked by the judge or whoever, were you supposed to take instructions in regards to that procurement procedure from Mochache?
Okay.
And by the book, you're going to say no. So you're going to go to prison. So people, CEOs and heads of parastatals should stop self-preservation. If you can't do your job,
step aside
without receiving instructions from anyone, just resign.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you very much for your
All
call
right,
this
thanks.
morning.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so we're coming to the end of the show today. CT, just remind us today's proverb. Give it some bus driver, crowded passenger
A
context.
truthful man will soon find himself expelled from the 9 villages. Mutai Kagwe is in the 6th village, and they're trying to expel him out.
And he's truthful.
And he's truthful.
All right. All right. Jonah Manjari is already out. He's done all 9.
I don't think everybody has to get to 9.
Right.
It's the,
The expulsion could-
resilient ones who keep moving.
Right. The expulsion
Yes.
could come even at village 1.
Some people get village 1.
You don't go to the next
I
one.
just change the location of your residence.
Or you stop telling the truth.
Or you move even from that country.
That's the main one. So thank you very much for tuning in today to The Situation Room. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Nduh Okoh. Your thoughts on this particular issue as we close?
No, it's responsibility, and responsibility never came light. Responsibility comes heavy. You should be able to take it or leave it.
So now?
You can't, if you're not going to be able to say this and this, or this is whom, this is exactly what is happening, some kind of fear there, maybe you weren't cut out for it.
Okay. So basically, unless he's going to tell us the names of them.
If he's going to tell us
that
who
are
it was
fighting
and go
him,
to the heart of the rot, by all means stay. But if not,
pack up, out nature. All right, so between now and 3 o'clock, you'll have uninterrupted music, sugar and spice and everything nice. And then Monique comes to take you home on Spice Drive from 3 to 7. And from 7 to 10, you have the adults in the room. And this is Eric, Emmanuel, and Barbara, the Duchess of Ikolomani. See you again tomorrow. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.